Think for yourself. Question authority. Think for yourself. Question authority. Throughout human history, as our species has faced the frightening, terrorizing fact that we do not know who we are or where we're going in this ocean of chaos, it has been the authorities, the political, the religious, the educational authorities who attempted to comfort us by giving us order, rules, regulations, forming in our minds their view of reality. To think for yourself, you must question authority and learn how to put yourself in a state of vulnerable, open-mindedness, chaotic, confused vulnerability to inform yourself. Think for yourself, question authority, think for yourself, question authority, think for yourself, question authority, think for yourself.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. Hope you're all doing good today. Welcome Dartho P, Chris, Donkey, K, Biz Power, Jay Nothtrell, Wilbur Force, Cherryman Gaming, Pino, Tom Tycoon, Xavier. Hope you guys are doing good. I have quite interesting stream here today. Get our Metroid music going. We won't be covering Metroid Prime 4 really today because there's not much like new stuff going on with Metroid Prime 4. Of course there will be. We're gonna go crazy in that game once we get some more information come out on it. But we're gonna be talking about graphics updates for Switch 2. Some amazing DLSS stuff going on with Switch 2 that I think is extremely impressive. We're talking about pre-orders, how you guys did on pre-orders, how I did, the situation that some people went through, and some of the shenanigans GameStop is pulling too, or trying to, some of them, and typical stuff that you expect from GameStop, of course. And yeah, I'll tell you my story about how I got my Switch 2 pre-order. I did secure my Switch 2, and I have RTX 5090 here with me to unbox right here. Okay, so this is gonna be fun to say the least. I've never done a live unboxing before. This would be the first time I've ever done a live unboxing on this channel, so we'll see how it goes. I think I did an unboxing of the Switch 1 in a short little recording I did, pre-recorded, but it wasn't live. So that should be interesting. But yeah, I basically PC gaming and Switch 2 I think is going to be the best combination this in the next like 5 years or so, and at least just because of how things have gone and like the how gaming has not really advanced to the point where we're really past the generation of PS4 being like outdated looking. Is really not, and the Switch 2 is more powerful than the PS4. Obviously not as powerful as a PS5, but we're at the point where we're having like a meeting of the mobile devices with the consoles, and PC gaming has become very much a enthusiast sport, so to speak, where you have a lot of, if you want to get the I'm like of the mindset where if I want to have the best experience, I might as well go ahead and get the best equipment to enjoy the best experience, because you have a lot of these games on PS5 and Xbox Series X that are pushing ray tracing, but they're not doing it very well. They're getting lots of, basically they're not being able to perform very well in their graphics, lower resolutions, lower frame rates, just to get ray tracing and some reflections on there. Look, let's just admit it. We're not there yet for the masses. And that's why Switch 2, I think, is an amazing device to have, and in conjunction with a PC, if you can actually afford that type of device. So gaming has been my hobby since I was a little boy for many, many years. So I made the decision to, if I'm gonna get the best of the best, I'm gonna get the best of the best for what Nintendo offers. And we have the best first party games on Nintendo. And obviously they're not on PC, and I'm going to have the best third-party games and modded games and all kinds of crazy good stuff you can do with PC that you can't do on any console. Anyone who's a PC gamer will know that there's just certain things you can do that a console can't do. There's so many options, great deals on games. It's just a great combination to have if you can afford it. If you can't afford it, you can only afford a Switch 2, guess what? Nintendo actually has some amazing things going on with Switch 2 that we're going to talk about with its rendering and its DLSS. And because it looks like their DLSS just might be the best DLSS I've ever seen. And I'm not kidding here either. Like the DLSS that this appears to be using, we're going to examine it close up, because I think we've discovered here in Street Fighter 6. Digital Foundry talked about it, but we're gonna actually show you close up where the DLSS kicks in the Street Fighter 6 footage from Treehouse. We're gonna get to that in just a little bit. You're gonna be blown away by what this is doing here. I guarantee it. But yeah, the DLSS 4 transformer model is the best form of DLSS there is right now, and I'm actually more impressed by this for Switch 2, because this what they're doing here has never really been done before. It's kind of innovative, which is probably why they patented this custom DLSS for Switch 2. I am extremely impressed, and this is coming from a guy, as you know, who's going to be unboxing an RTX 5090. I already have an RTX 4090 installed on my PC. We just played Oblivion Remastered on PC on launch day on Tuesday. Looks great. It runs good enough on my PC, but some people have been. There's been reports, and Digital Foundry did their big old stuttering mess, on PC video. We're going to talk about Digital Foundry as well. There's some interesting things you guys should be aware of with Digital Foundry, and it's not coming from the sense of a Nintendo fanboy. I want to make it clear. It's not about me defending Switch 2 against Digital Foundry and like, oh my gosh, they're so aggressive against them. It's not about that. It's more about from a tech perspective. I've had issues with that site for many years now, and it has nothing to do with Nintendo or Switch 2. It has everything to do with how they cover games in general, and it's coming from a PC minded perspective. And there is other channels who are actually tech channels, PC channels, that have it out for Digital Foundry. We'll go over that. It's kind of interesting, I think, because a lot of people may see my videos who don't know what I do or don't know what I'm about. They may think that I'm just defending Nintendo at all costs because I cover Switch 2. But that's not the case. There's a lot more to the story to Digital Foundry, and I think you guys should be aware of it. I want to make it clear, I respect their work a lot. Frame rate analysis and side-by-side comparisons, I think those are very, very valuable to the gaming community, including for Nintendo. What I have issue with is when they push their opinions onto their viewers, and that goes for PC games, it goes for console games, it goes for everybody. When they push their opinions, and the reason is because they have such a huge channel, their opinions get posted as news articles as being like, this game looks worse than another game because Digital Foundry said so, or this game has terrible graphics, or looks bad with shadows, or looks bad with lighting or reflections because Digital Foundry said so. But those are all opinions. Like you can actually enjoy certain types of graphical looks and art styles better than what an actual technical advancement can show you. Just because something looks real doesn't mean or just because something is rendered realistically doesn't mean it looks better. It just means it's rendered realistically. You may actually prefer the more artificial way or artsy design of a game's look versus how it's just rendered real. It's very interesting. But yeah, we're going to talk a lot. We're going to get to a Q&A at the end, of course, after we go over everything. But I think you're going to find this very interesting, this discussion. Welcome, Nintendo Prime. Yeah, if you label it as an opinion piece, it's cool. Comment news. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so let's talk about pre-orders real quick. Did you guys get your Switch 2 pre-ordered? So I did, and it wasn't that hard. Welcome, Goat. Welcome, everybody. But yeah, I'll acknowledge all you guys as we get to when we get to the Q&A. Just hang in there, because I can spend all day just talking to you guys, of course, and we will do that later on. But I want to cover this information first before I lose it out of my mind. So yeah, it looks like you guys a lot of people got their pre-orders. Yeah, so Target, Walmart, and Best Buy went live with their pre-orders at midnight on Eastern Standard Time on April 24th. But the catch is that Target and Walmart, Target went live right away, and their site immediately crashed. Straight up just died. It was like a 404 forbidden address. It just completely died instantaneously. All the traffic went to Target apparently, and they completely their site just borked and died. No matter how many refresh, like for the first 5 to 10 minutes after 12 midnight on April 24th. So Walmart, on the other hand, I went to their site, and as soon as it was like 10 minutes before 12 midnight, they already had the line queued up. So you can go and click on Switch 2, and you get queued up to be in this line. And they said, oh, don't worry, we'll let you know when it's your turn. And that page never actually stopped loading, never actually completely changed for the entire time that I was on the site. And I left it there, and I opened up other pages on Walmart to try to see if I can get the page to change. And it said you're in line for an hour. So by that time, I'd already got my pre-order done at Best Buy. I was like, okay, Walmart's not working for me. But apparently Walmart went ahead and did give people their pre-order. It was just a very stressful time because no one knew what was going on. They thought that maybe the site was broken. You're just seeing that you're in line and nothing's happening. And you're and this has happened a lot, by the way, with other pre-order situations for other devices, GPUs, other consoles, other new products. You will go and the sites would tell you you're in line, and then when it becomes your turn, it would say, okay, we're sold out. It won't even tell you that where you are in line. It won't tell you what place you are. It would just, we're sold out. You never even got a chance to put it in your cart. A lot of sites would do that. So that's why I didn't trust Walmart. And I went ahead and I already had Best Buy open. Best Buy, on the other hand, everyone can vouch for this. You guys were probably all there trying to pre-order. Best Buy, on the other hand, was completely... They didn't even have their pre-orders going at all. So they had their pre-orders nothing was happening. It just said coming soon. I would refresh the page on Best Buy after 12 midnight Eastern time. Nothing would happen. And it was just like, okay, are they doing this? Is it already sold out? Did it sell out instantaneously? Because remember, I'm unboxing an RTX 5090. I tried to get an RTX 5090 on launch day when pre-orders went live at Best Buy in late January. And instantaneously, as soon as the page went live, you would refresh, and instantaneously, it was sold out because they didn't provide enough stock. And it was completely gone. And I was like, oh no, did they completely sell out of Switch 2 that quickly at Best Buy? That can't be right. So I went searching on Twitter to see what was going on. And of course, our good buddy Wario64, he's a huge help. You guys should all follow Wario64 on Twitter. He's an outstanding help for stuff like pre-order pages being live and going live, or like when new stock is arriving for new devices, be sure you follow Wario64. Okay, he will help you in these situations. But yeah, he was posting updates on Twitter about Best Buy, because people were like, what's going on at Best Buy? Did they, are they not doing it after all? Is there a delay? And he's like, well, Best Buy hasn't gone live yet. Just hang in there, and you'll get your chance. So sure enough, I kept refreshing the page, and I kept trying to do Target. And by that time, Target came back online. I was actually able to put add to cart and go to checkout for the Target Switch 2 during this time. But every time I would try to go to purchase, click the purchase button, the site would say an error occurred, even though there was no error for me. It just said error occurred, try again. So I kept trying again, and the site would not respond. It kept saying error occurred, even though I had Switch 2 in my cart to purchase it from Target. I was like, okay, this is stupid. This is not working. So I'm going to wait for Best Buy. Hopefully they do something. Walmart was still stuck on the page there saying, you're in line. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I can't be in line. This is stupid. And then, so there was about 30 minutes or so from 12 midnight to 12:30 of anxiety kicking in for me, even because I was like, uh-oh, something's fishy going on here. But once Best Buy went live, I refreshed the page at Best Buy around 12:30ish or so. It was about 30 minutes late. I don't have the exact time range. It varies for some people. But once Best Buy went live, I refreshed the page, and it said add to cart. And so I clicked add to cart, and the first try didn't work. The site was like crashing because everyone, I guess, saw it at the same time. So I clicked add to cart, and the site just like froze and crashed, and I had to reload it. And then I reloaded it, and it said the product was sold out. I kid you not, it said sold out. And I was like, no, this can't be true. It just can't be. So I refreshed again, and then the page said add to cart, and I was like, okay, that was just a glitch. So I added it to cart, and then Best Buy did the whole thing where it said, we're gonna put you in line. We're gonna, don't leave this page. We're putting you in line. And I was like, uh-oh, one of these again. But the good news is that with Best Buy, big shout outs to Best Buy, because they did a really great job on verifying that you were a real person, at least for me. You guys let me know in the chat. But what they did for my purchase is that they had to verify my information after I got my chance to go into the cart and actually click purchase. There was like 3 steps I had to go through to actually pre-order Switch 2. So there was lots of chances for them to verify that I was a real human being and not a bot. So what they did is that when I went to go purchase the Switch 2, they contacted my credit card company. I used my credit card. They contacted my credit card company, and another page came up saying that we're gonna verify that you were a real person by calling you on your phone. Yeah, okay, go. You had the same thing. So they called me on my phone, and they gave me a code only through my phone, my personal phone connected to my credit card account. And then I entered the code manually by hand on Best Buy's page. And then after that, they did another scan to see if that was real. And then they said, okay, you can now click to purchase your Switch 2. It was completely isolated away from the other pages. And I was like, wow, this is great. So I'm going to get the chance to actually, this looks like it's going to work. And they had my email address and everything. So I went and purchased the Switch 2. It loaded and everything on its own. And it said, okay, it said, you're done. You got your Switch 2. And I was like, really? It was that easy? So it took about 5 minutes, but fantastic job. Shout outs. Fantastic job by Best Buy for doing that in that way. It really was way better than Target. And I don't know how Walmart was, but I'm pretty sure it was better than Walmart too. But yeah, shout outs to Best Buy. They did a great job. I got my Switch 2 pre-ordered, and then the next day, I went ahead and pre-ordered the Switch 2 Pro controller. I actually had forgot to pre-order the Switch 2 Pro controller because I was just so excited I got the Switch 2 in general, and then I just went to bed and woke up the next day. But the controllers are not really hard to pre-order, so that wasn't bad. Some people are saying you are waiting 2 hours. Oh wow, I'm sorry, buddy, Baracus. Yeah, obviously not everybody was able to get a Switch 2, so for those of you who weren't able to, I'm sorry. For me, it was not hard, but a lot of people did get the Switch 2, like many people, and yeah. So yeah, Walmart did the line thing, Best Buy did the line thing, but like it was very much handled better with Best Buy, I would say. And there's a report from Bloomberg saying that the pre-orders were through the roof for Switch 2. It's a paid page you have to go through, but I did look at the Bloomberg information because for some reason I was able to for a short time. Then they got rid of it, and you weren't able to watch it or look at it anymore. But what did they say? They said, let me show you real quick. They said, Bloomberg said that Switch 2 pre-orders estimated to be 6.6 million globally, and it's estimated that Nintendo can produce 6 to 8 million of the Switch 2 consoles by June 5th. So, and then, for reference, this is all according to Bloomberg, okay? So if there's any PlayStation fans in there, don't get angry. There was a lot of angry comments in reply to this. It's not my fault. But Bloomberg said that the biggest selling consoles ever are the PS4 and the PlayStation 5, which launched at 4.5 million. And I said the Switch 2 is looking to smash records, so this is true. So a lot of angry PlayStation fans replied here. I'm not going to go into that. There a lot of bad things they were saying. Yeah, so if you got 6.6 million pre-orders globally already, that's game, set, and match. You got the best. You're gonna have the best selling console of all time. This is just an estimate, though. I think they got at least 5 million pre-orders, and either way, I think it's gonna be a record breaker for the biggest selling console of all time at launch. And people were pointing out that this number here, 4.5 million, was actually at the first month for PS5 and PS4. It was like the end of December of each of those respective launches. So, wow, right? You could theoretically have at least 5 million Switch 2 consoles sold on day one. Can you believe that? It's totally insane. But again, these are just estimates. We don't know for sure. Either way, though, I think it's highly likely that we're going to have the biggest console launch in the history of gaming. So this is pretty insane. But yeah, I got my Switch 2 pre-ordered. We'll be hopefully I'll be able to play it day one. Depends on like the midnight launch thing. I don't know. There's lots of guys out there and lots of channels who are going to be getting the Switch 2 box to unbox the console before anyone else, because that's how it works in media. They get the consoles early. So I don't know if I'm going to do an unboxing of the Switch 2, because everybody will have their unboxing videos done before anyone else actually gets a chance to. But as far as getting the console and playing it, I will at least play it live with you guys on launch day. But I'm just not sure if I'll do it at midnight as soon as I get home and plug it in. I'm not sure if I'll do it that way. Maybe I'll do it the next day, and we can have more time to play it, because I will have to get to sleep at some point on that day. Then we can fully enjoy it on June 5th. And I'm hoping I can secure maybe a physical copy. I should be able to, a physical copy of Cyberpunk 2077. I think I do want that game physically, because it's the only third-party AAA physical game that they're going to be showing on Switch 2. Sorry, or releasing on Switch 2. So, Spider Chat, yeah, you keep asking about 60 frames on Cyberpunk. Yeah, I think they can. Maybe not at launch, but I think they could later. I mean, you can technically. Here's the funny thing about that game is that you can get 60 frames on Cyberpunk on Steam Deck. You just have to lower the settings extremely low, and it looks really bad. But on like Steam Deck OLED, I think there's some people have actually got 60 frames per second in some cases. Cyberpunk 2077 on Steam Deck. So I do think they can hit that on Switch 2, but I don't think they're going to do it, probably not on launch day. Remember, the Series S got 60 frames 2 years after the console launched. So don't hold your breath for 60 frames, but we will see if they continue to patch the game and optimize it. So, well, we just don't know. This is a brand new console. We're talking about a brand new launch of a console with a AAA, one of the most demanding games of all time, Cyberpunk 2077, on this console. So we're just barely getting started, and just to see where the Switch has come since it launched in 2017. If you remember the Switch 1's launch lineup, it was a lot of indie games, and they had Zelda, of course, was the big one, but they didn't have very many big games on Switch in the launch month, really. They got Ultra Street Fighter 2, which came out like a month later, and then they had Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and then they had, lots of first-party games, right? So yeah, bam, you got Cyberpunk 2077 day one, and CD Projekt Red, and their Twitter page. Let me pull that up real quick. Cyberpunk 2077. They are really proud of this port on Switch 2. Let me see what it says here. Yeah, they have new pictures of the game, direct feed footage. Tend to put another 800 hours. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, direct feed capture of the Switch 2 version of Cyberpunk 2077. I have 250 hours of this game, of gameplay put into this game on PC. I know it very well, and as you know, I got the best PC to run this game, so I hope you can trust my opinion when I tell you I think this looks really good for what they're doing here. There's not that. Obviously, it's not going to be running ray tracing or anything, but this looks like Cyberpunk 2077. It looks like the same game. These are all direct capture from in the game itself on Switch 2. Thanks MPCW for the $4.99 super chat. There's a vid on YouTube of someone using DLSS with Spider-Man to increase resolution from as low as 360p. It looked great, very impressive technology. Yeah, we'll get to that. There's the Switch 2's DLSS might actually be even better than that, because remember, their patent was actually designed to use DLSS for 540p to 1080p. That they actually patented that particular resolution in particular, even though they did say it'll also work with up to 1440p and 4K as well. But they've specifically singled out 540p and 1080p, so that whatever algorithm they're using, they're doing an amazing job at making shimmering and jagged lines look almost indistinct from higher resolutions, because they actually fooled Digital Foundry. But we'll talk about that in a second. So yeah, you have all the stuff going on with Switch 2. You have probably the biggest launch of all time. And you have some very interesting things going on with Switch 2 and its technology with the ports that it's getting. And we have a discussion going on about, the Nintendo's pushing technology forward, I think, in the portable sense for gaming with Switch 2. You have Metroid Prime 4 with a native 4K, 60 frames per second, 120 frames per second, 1080p. And art style is king in that game. Yeah, you're not going to be getting like super crazy ray tracing or things like that, but you're going to be getting a game that looks fantastic, and image quality and frame rate do make a big difference, and art style make a huge difference as well. Technology, not as much when you get to a certain level, and that's exactly what you're seeing here with like a game like Cyberpunk. So this is running on a portable system. And it looks just like Cyberpunk 2077. This is a portable. So yeah, we're getting something that you would not expect on a Nintendo console. But yeah, let's get into that. Digital Foundry. And I think you'll find this interesting. Yeah, so our good buddies here. I have interacted with John Lindemann in the past on Twitter. He's a nice guy. But like I've said in the past, though, these guys have a lot of their minds, I think, get stuck on tech examples versus art style examples versus what looks better to the eye, and then pushing their opinions on to their audience, saying what looks better based on the tech and not the art design. That's the big problem I think they've run into, and I've said this for the last few years. So yeah, Thomas Morgan, he covered this about the his experience with Switch 2, and yeah, so he played Cyberpunk, he played Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter 6 we're going to examine in depth here, so I hope you guys are all here. Pay attention closely to this part. And what are we doing with those likes? Let's get the like buttons up. Come on. We got like triple the amount of people watching. Let's get it over 100 likes like right now. We want more people here for this part. I think you're going to find this part really interesting, or I'm going to show you a visual example of what is going on here. Something that Digital Foundry didn't do, which they should be doing, but they're not doing. But I will show you. It's really cool. So, all right. This is our first taste of RE Engine Capcom title, which is exciting given the number of games I'm hoping to see on Switch 2 down the line. And again, this is from the guy up here who did the article. In this case, Switch 2's optimization is a success where it matters. It's holding a stable 60 frames per second against Street Fighter 6. But it does take a few trade-offs visually. It renders at 1080p, he says here. This is before they updated it. It renders at 1080p on direct footage, much like PS4 and Xbox Series S versions, and with a similar drop in shadow quality as those versions too. As a result, there is some slight flicker, dithering to environmental shadows and ambient shade around the hair. Textures may be higher than Series S based on online murmuring. No, it's factually higher quality textures than Xbox Series S. You've seen the blanket example of the textures of Street Fighter 6 on that console versus Switch 2. It is undoubtedly high resolution, which is very odd. They would question this here. Just look at a screenshot. It's very easy. But he says this is something we'll have to report back on with direct capture from Switch 2. Okay, and then he says, update as of April 22nd, 2025. While our initial pixel counts for Street Fighter 6 during the Switch 2 Nintendo Direct revealed pointed to a native 1080p based on limited footage, the more recent Treehouse feed shows a scale from a native 960 by 540 to a 1080p target using AI upscaling method, with evidence suggesting NVIDIA's DLSS based on the footage. Looking back, this 540p upscale appears to be in place in the original direct footage as well. So they apparently didn't examine it as closely as they should have, and had to look back at it again. Maybe I don't know why, but yeah, looking back, okay. He says it's a remarkably clean scale in most shots. Remarkably clean. Which I agree. It's remarkable. It's incredible even. This can't be stressed enough. It's a remarkably clean scale of most shots, with the first few frames following a camera cut being one way to catch the base resolution from its docked mode play. So what they're saying is that when there's a camera cut to a new scene, there's like a couple frames where you can see the base resolution, and then the DLSS kicks in. So keep this in mind. This completely fooled the guys at Digital Foundry into assuming or thinking that the game on Street Fighter 6 was rendering at a native 1080p. Literally, they said native 1080p. That's what it looked like to them. And when we saw the treehouse footage, by the way, we'll go over that in a second. When we saw that treehouse footage, it looked like they were rendering at a lower resolution but upscaling to 4K, because they were capturing Street Fighter 6 at 4K on their treehouse event, right? And it looked super clean and great. And if you saw my newest video here, we did a comparison. Let me show you really quick. We did that comparison of Street Fighter 6 and the PC version. Let me make sure this doesn't come on. Okay, I got to watch out for the volumes here. Yeah, so Street Fighter 6. Yeah, Street Fighter 6 versus the PC version. This is Street Fighter 6 on Switch 2. Right here, right? Looks great. And then we're gonna cut to, this is from the treehouse footage. I mean, here's the PC version. This is my footage of the PC version. I try to do a like for like shot. PC version. Looks really good, right? And then we're gonna cut to the comparison between the two, Switch 2 versus the PC version. So they obviously have a different color grading going on their capture device. They probably upped the color. I don't think this is how it's gonna look on Switch 2 as far as how saturated the colors are. It's probably gonna look more like this. But they have increased color saturation on their capture because it shows on everything here. They definitely increased the color, but that's neither here or there. This looks great. So they have this looking just like Street Fighter 6. There's no difference here, and it looks very, very clean, right? And but yeah, this definitely looks better than the Steam Deck version. And the textures are better than the Xbox Series S version, and I believe it does look cleaner than the PS4 version as well. But yeah, this is a the only difference is the color grading because of the capture device they use is deeper colors. But yeah, this is Street Fighter 6 on Switch 2. No one's gonna complain about this at all. Nobody. All right. So check this out. I'm going to show you, we can show you exactly where the actual DLSS is going to kick in. Let's see if we can go back a little bit here. So this is Street Fighter 6. Pay attention closely if you can. If you're watching on your big screen TV, this will be helpful. Make sure you're watching this in highest resolution you can. We're going to zoom in here. And let's see, if you go forward frame by frame a little bit, I'll show you exactly, you'll be able to see exactly where the DLSS kicks in for Switch 2. Okay, let's see. I'll show you where. Okay, let's see. And it'll be very apparent, watch. Almost there. Camera's about to cut, okay? Everything looks clean here. There it is. All right, you see that? Here it is. Right here. And Chun-Li too. You can tell it's a lower resolution. This is only going to be literally for 2 frames. So see how the lines got completely disconnected, and they're obviously it's a lower resolution here. Chun-Li is looking more there's like some disocclusion, like art, almost like, you know, like lower resolution, like artifacts, you could say. Not really, but it's like showing some signs of low resolution here. There's like some jaggies and stuff. So watch this though. So this is one frame cut. If you go back 1 frame, this is, I'm doing this with shortcuts on my keyboard here on YouTube. You go back 1 frame. This is where Ryu is about to turn, and look at Chun-Li for their versus stance. Forward 1 frame, so that's 1. Now let's go to frame 2. Okay, forward 1 more frame. Oh, okay. So it looks like its DLSS is turning on. It's not on completely yet, but it turned on. You could tell it's being turned on. The lines have been actually, you can see they're being filled in here, but it's not fully on yet. Okay, so let's go to the next frame. So that was 1 frame, 2 frame, and by the 3rd frame, it's going to be turned on pretty much. So it goes to black and white, because that's what they do when they're in the versus screen here. If you turn this off, so they're going to versus, and they say a round 1 fight. So DLSS is now on, but there's a little bit interesting thing you can notice if we forward a couple more frames, that it's still turning on even more so to like full effect, but really it's only all the work is done with 2 frames, 1 frame, 2 frame, and by the 3rd frame, yeah, it's done with 2 frames. So 1 frame, 2 frame, and by the 3rd frame, it's basically on. But if we forward the frames a few more times, it's going to turn on a little bit more. You see a little bit more of the little adjustment there, but it's hardly noticeable at all. So by the 9th frame, it's all done. Let's go back. Okay. 1 off, 2 turned on, like it's turning on, 3 it's on, and then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 it's completely resolved 100%. But you won't be able to notice those other resolves. So that whatever they're doing there, they're increasing it even more so. You can look a little close at the lines on the dojo in the back there, or building, and it kind of off, on, and then resolve, but very fine resolve to make it look very good. And then it's going to turn back. So it's already on. It's been on for a bit. We're just going forward for the frames. Round 1. Look at that. So look at this. Looks beautifully clean. This looks better than the line resolve in PS5 and on PS4 Pro, Xbox Series S. This looks better than that, because it's actually correcting the lines with AI. And we talked about this in previous videos, that previous live stream, the last live stream we did, the reason why you could tell it's AI driven is because a lot of the times the lines, and even, Digital Foundry said this after I did in my live stream, but the lines basically, they kind of mesh the jaggies together to make them look more filled out. So that's why you can tell, like in a game like Cyberpunk 2077, if we go back to Cyberpunk 2077, right here is a great example. Right here. So this is a telltale sign of DLSS. So without DLSS, this pole here would be a jaggy mess. And these poles here as well would be. So they're using DLSS here. They have already confirmed they're using DLSS in this game. They're using DLSS to correct the lines and make them not as noticeable, basically, to the naked eye. Which then, that is what you want. Because you want to have, like if you're actually going to be using this to your advantage, like a lot of things with a game like Street Fighter 6, it's not like super demanding, but like what this will do from them rendering at 540p to 1080p and then upscaling again to like to 4K with like a TAA solution. What this will do is that this will ensure a locked 60 frames per second no matter what they're doing on screen. So say they're doing their gigantic level 3 supers, right? Or there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on screen. This will allow them to avoid any frame drops during those times as well. Plus, the game needs to run at this high quality during online play. So you need to have all these variables in place in order to get the game running smoothly. And there are frame drops in Xbox Series S and PS4. So this is hands down, this is the most impressive use of DLSS I've ever seen in a game. I've never seen something resolve this clean at a 540p resolution. It is absolutely amazing. We're going back here. Look at that. Like, this is crazy. I've never seen it do this before. This is like just insane. From off to on to done, pretty much, and then small resolves after that, and we're good. And I'm gonna push play here, and then you'll see like basically when they start jumping in front of this building here, you can notice if you're zoomed in. And if you're really paying attention, you can notice that some of their like motion blur or whatever causes a little bit of shimmering in the AI upscale in this building. That's like the only way you can tell really that they're using it. But it has some shimmering. We'll see them go fight. See how it does have some shimmering when it moves, when they're moving through it. But it resolves really quickly. You see? But you're never going to notice that during gameplay, and this is zoomed in, and it doesn't even look bad in the first place. So let me go back a little bit. So go back, and then if we zoom out to normal, so yeah, you're never going to notice this during play. It just looks like it looks like the game is running at a high resolution, looks clean. Yeah, there's some like a little bit of shimmering and a little bit of jaggy sometimes when they move in motion, but when the image is more still, it resolves itself super fast and it looks super clean. But even in motion, it looks great. So like, no one's gonna complain about this. This does not look like low resolution. This does not look like 540p. This looks like something like 1080p being upscaled to 4K, and that's exactly here what they were capturing the game at, 4K. So you tell me in the chat, are you going to be disappointed in how this game looks if just because someone tells you it's running at 540p but you can't notice it, does it matter? I would say no. And remember, this is coming from a PC gamer here, okay? Like, I notice these things because I'm into this kind of stuff, and this is what interests me. Other channels, maybe not, right? But when you do the, deep dives into this stuff, you can actually see how it works, and it's really good, man. Like, this is incredibly good. Like we said, it fooled Digital Foundry. Yeah, like you said, Spider, no one's gonna be able to tell it's 540p. It's literally impossible unless you zoom in and see where the DLSS is turned on. So the reason why I did that is because of what they said here on this page. I was like, So he looked at the footage on Treehouse Live and said it looks like native 1080p. They actually reported that it appeared to be native 1080p when they first saw this game. And then they said, wait a second, because they slowed down some footage from the Treehouse footage that was there, because obviously they can't do any direct capture because they don't have the Switch 2. Then they saw that when the camera panned to a new scene, that the actual base resolution was exposed for 2 frames. So to give you an idea here, so we're gonna zoom in. We're gonna zoom in. All right. And I'll get to your comments when we're done. I got stuff we gotta go over. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna zoom in here. Let's go back. Round 1 fight. All right, so I'm gonna play this at normal speed, and I'm gonna zoom in, and even zooming in at normal speed, let me know if you guys can even tell what happened. Like, I highly doubt you'll be able to even tell zoomed in when the resolution change happens. It's only 2 frames. All right, so let's go back a little bit. Let me know if you could even see the change. It happened, right? I didn't see any. I didn't notice it. You got to be like staring. You got to like really stare, like in the center of the screen to see anything. Maybe. Let me see. I'm doing it slow again, but you have to stare. You have to put your eyes literally. You gotta stare. You gotta like look directly here before the scene even happens. Look directly there. Keep your eyes peeled on that, and don't move your eyes at all, or else you'll miss it. That's basically how crazy it is. So I'm watching. Can I see it? No, not really. I can't really notice it. Maybe, like, I don't know, but it's so quick. You're never gonna notice that. And that's with me knowing it's there and trying to find it. No one else is gonna do that. Everyone is gonna just be playing it like this, and they're gonna just enjoy the game because that's how you should be enjoying it. We're dissecting it because we have a site that is doing it and telling people certain information, and they have a gigantic following, and they're trying to report things to people about Switch 2. And for the technical minded, for those who are interested in this kind of stuff, we're gonna call them out on things or try to find things on our own, because I don't think they do enough time actually to get deeper into this stuff, because they didn't show this example. I had to go search for it myself because I didn't want to just take their word for it. I wanted to see where the change was in the footage to see for myself if it was 540p. That's why I always tell you guys to do your own research and don't just take people's word for it. It may sound cliche at this point to say, think for yourself and question authority, but you need to these days, especially with stuff like this, because you're relying on these guys who consider themselves professionals at this job to tell you certain things about games. But you need to just make sure that you're getting all the correct information and everything in place before just blindly believing guys like Digital Foundry, because they get things wrong, and they don't have enough time to actually cover Switch 2 because they're covering all the other consoles and PC. They just don't have enough time to dedicate to this kind of stuff. It's just the way it is, guys. And you guys are doing a good job. Yeah, you do your own research, right? So good. But that is not what the norm is. People just would rather just let other people do the work and listen to them. So, which is good, but sometimes you just need to do it yourself, because you can't rely on these other places to actually show you an example. Because literally they said, when the camera switches a scene, you can see the 540p image, but that was only said in text. They didn't show you an example. So at least you could see the example here of how the DLSS on Switch 2 works. So this is super impressive. I think it's amazing, actually. I think it's amazing that they could do this, and it bodes well for Switch 2 games using this technology. It's mind-blowing. Like I said in my video, I think it's mind-blowing that they can do that with resolutions now, to actually upscale it from a resolution that low and then basically do a double upscale. So you got upscaling from 540p to 1080p. Looks like native 1080p. They couldn't even tell a difference. I couldn't tell a difference. When I saw the game when they first showed the game, I couldn't tell a difference. I couldn't tell what they were doing. It looked like it was running at a high resolution. Upscaled to 4K is what it looked like. So yeah, it looks like 1080p native from 540p. It legit does. That's not making things up. And they're outputting the game at 4K on Switch 2 in that footage, which means they're likely using a basic upscale, using like TAA or something, probably from 1080p to 4K to make it look like that. Very clean and crisp. No, it doesn't look as good as native 4K, but does it look great? Yes, it does. So getting back to what I was saying though about Digital Foundry. So there's an issue with them, more so from a PC gamer's perspective. A lot of PC gamers don't like Digital Foundry, and I'm not saying, like I said, I appreciate their analysis videos, but I think it has more to do with their staff, certain staff on their teams. So if we look at this is from their video from today, and I saw this and I was like, what is going on here? Like they did it again. They did the whole thing where they're telling you what looks bad and what looks good, which I don't appreciate. And I'll show you here.
And that is by turning off hardware lumen in the settings. By turning off hardware lumen and utilizing software lumen, you can improve CPU limited performance by around 35% on average, where we can see software lumen set to high and low essentially run the same here. This would technically be a nice improvement to overall FPS when CPU limited, but with this tweak the game looks a lot worse in many key areas. Water reflections look visibly poorer, and ambient
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I had to laugh. Do any of you know why I'm laughing? Do you hear what he just said? A lot worse. Yeah. Am I supposed to be seeing something? Yeah, exactly. Let's hear what he said again. This is Alex Battaglia, and I think he's by far probably the worst member of Digital Foundry as far as his analysis is concerned, because of this kind of stuff. Listen to what he says again here.
Overall FPS when CPU limited, but with this tweak the game looks a lot worse in many key areas. Water reflections look visibly poorer, and ambient shadowing and light.
Okay, so apparently, this looks a lot worse and looks poor compared to this. Here's what I see. this is a little pixelated and artifacty here. And this is a telltale sign of ray traced reflections not actually performing as well as they could because they're rendering the reflections at a lower resolution, which causes artifacts in the water. I don't think this looks good. That's just my opinion. Is it rendering the reflection a little more accurately from the tree? Yes. But guess what? On this one, does this look bad? In my opinion, it looks almost exactly the same. It looks great. And there's no artifacts in the water. Yeah, you're not getting the reflection from the tree. Yes, it's not real enough, or not as real rendering the reflection as this one is, but does it look poor and bad and much, much worse as he says it does? He doesn't even say it in his opinion. He says, this looks much, much worse in comparison. I think you have to let the viewer actually decide for themselves what looks better to them. Don't tell them what looks better. That's a big problem I have with that guy in particular. And I think he does that the most of all the members of Digital Foundry. And keep in mind, in their last DF Direct, a user even called him out, saying that why are they even asking this guy questions about Switch 2 when he doesn't even like Nintendo? And he admitted it. He doesn't even like Nintendo. He's a PC guy. He's PC Master Race. I'm PC Master Race myself, but I love Nintendo first party IPs, and I understand like why things are going in the way they are in gaming as far as why things look a certain way. He literally said this looks much worse. And like I just can't do it. I can't agree.
Looks a lot worse in many key areas. But with this tweak, the game looks a lot worse in many key areas. Water reflections look visibly poorer, and ambient shadowing and lighting is heavily gutted, so it is not a free lunch. If you could stomach that loss,
if you can stomach the loss of the darker shadows, if you can stomach the loss, oh man, this is just like game breaking. You know, I can't live without the little darker shadows here. This just looks terrible in comparison.
Loss to fidelity, which I think many can. That added performance sadly does almost nothing to help out the game's smoothness. As you can see on the frame time graph here on the bottom right again.
And what is this frame rate too? I mean, I'm questioning what he's running an RTX 5090 and 98X 3D at 1080p with maximum hardware lumen on. And it's
all
running
those
at
areas where there are big frame
rate
times
are because here's my stream from the other night. I'm playing this on an RTX 4090, and I didn't really have any. I had some stutters here and there, but it wasn't. Let me see if I can get this going in a better place. Yeah. Like the game, I had the game running at 4K, like DLSS balance mode with maximum settings, and the game was running smooth. Again, though, to each, that's neither here or there. I just want to make sure that I was. That's the video stopping there, loading. I just want to make sure I was telling you, like, sometimes PC performance in games, you're going to get variable performance, and yeah, it's a different area. But I didn't have this crazy, time with Oblivion like he's showing here. Again, though, I don't know. Like, yeah, there is some stuttering issues in the game, but I don't know if it's that bad. And I have a lesser GPU installed playing the game than this one. But yeah, if you can stomach.
Performance sadly does almost nothing to help out the game's smoothness. And, as you can see on the frame time graph here on the bottom right again, nearly all
by all means lower your settings to make it look much, much worse. Then if you play this game, if you're just sitting there, and you're playing this game in regular play, you're never going to notice this stuff in the first place. Most people won't. So this is the thing where I'm talking about with Switch 2. Most likely, when and if this game gets ported to Switch 2, it's probably going to look like this with its reflections and not like this. Nobody is going to even care or even notice it. And it's one version of greatness versus another version of greatness, albeit with artifacts on this version. Yes, you got a better reflection, but you have something that looks great over here versus something that looks great over here too. One version of great versus another version of great. No one's going to complain with one great versus another great. They'll both look great. You get what I'm saying here? Now, yeah, I'm not doing a hit piece on Digital Foundry, okay? I'm just telling you exactly what I'm seeing here, and I'm calling out stuff that I feel is wrong. But these guys, this right here, why you should unsubscribe for Digital Foundry, protecting game graphics standards. This is from Threat Interactive. They are a YouTube channel that is in contact with developers and a tech channel. And they have gone out and called out Digital Foundry on a lot of things. I'm going to show you some of this stuff, and it's really just to get you guys up to speed. It's not that this is not a issue with Nintendo fans being mad with Digital Foundry. This goes much deeper than that. There's more to it than that. So let me show you this really quick.
It saddens me that I have to make this video, but if we want to create meaningful changes, then this had to be done. On this channel, I educate consumers and developers with exclusive and accurate data on what graphical aspects are taking up your GPU performance, which allow consumers to criticize computations existing in their games. But I alternate from this topic to discuss the weakest links infecting the game industry.
I want to make it clear, I don't agree with everything this guy says, by the way, but I'm gonna make you guys aware of this channel. There's other channels out there that are kind of like calling them out on stuff, and they're trying to get them to do a better job. This guy sounds extremely angry and like spiteful, of course, but I just want to give you an example.
First, it was flawed TA and the various effects that needlessly abuse it. Then it was nanite, then global illumination, then GPU manufacturers, along with a market incentive crisis. Today's industry weakest link is Digital Foundry. After we released our last analysis, I was made aware of a DF Weekly where the founder of Digital Foundry, Richard Ledbetter, shared a supporter question with John Linneman and Alex Vitale, asking how they felt about the video genre criticizing the underwhelming visual results of 9th gen graphics. This genre, of course, encompasses the videos this channel produces. I found the responses incredibly predictable and generic. Immediately, Richard began spewing rhetoric about the extraordinary things developers are trying to put in our games despite hardware limitations. What extraordinary things are devs trying to put in our games? Honestly, smeary lighting, noisy geometric detail, simulations that can be partially pre-computed, advanced anti-aliasing such as FSR2 according to Oliver Mackenzie, which has various quality issues including major blur in motion. To downplay the clear regressions we've seen, John follows up with some contrived comparison about how when we move to 3D graphics, many instances show the new gen being worse than the last gen. He then describes why we need to move to dynamic GI for dynamic games. That's true, but we've had partially dynamic GI during 8th gen with destructible and moving objects. These guys blindly defend slow lighting for the sake of dynamics because they are so conditioned by ray tracing culture, which John randomly mentions. He hyper-focused on the static nature of the Order 1886, when the static nature of that game is not because of the baked lighting like he and his colleagues assume. It's because it wasn't a priority for the developers to implement. We have a lot of systems that would easily allow a more dynamic environment for the Order 1886.
Yeah, so just real quick, he's calling out exactly the stuff that I've been saying too, because of they're so infatuated with the tech on display. They're not actually focused on what's more important for game development, and they're saying things look great because it's there, not because it actually looks great.
But they continue to defend games that use lighting systems like Lumen that fall apart visually. After disclaiming that the right balance should be found for certain game scenarios, he then states that new visual features require sacrifices, and that last gen sacrificed resolution and frame rate, but this gen uses upscaling instead. In other words, we're stagnating. People with sufficient hardware have to upscale from sub 1080p because of
see,
optimization
he's not a fan of like upscaling methods. I get that. Like he's definitely a PC enthusiast. He wants games to actually be able to render the stuff without DLSS and without FSR. I don't agree with that aspect because you give it more to the masses. But he's calling out their incorrect reporting though, and there's stuff like that. And also the condescending nature of their site.
Alex Battaglia then joined the conversation, but not to actually argue about the claims being made about the industry. Instead, he claimed that videos like mine have an angle to make an online profit. First of all, this is a red herring fallacy. The name of this fallacy originates from a technique used in fox hunts, where one team would utilize the strong odor of a dead fish to distract the tracking hounds of the opposing team. Alex's stinking worthless fish was thrown as he said, "The grift is real," as he shamefully looked down away from the camera. Richard then repeated this line in agreement, and my thanks goes out to John for quickly trying to diffuse the absolute hypocrisy of his colleagues attacking YouTube profiting. Because Digital Foundry is a money-making machine that milks YouTube's system, which favors upload frequency rather than quality. These 7 dudes are making articles that draw on ads and pump out videos daily, with multiple videos on the same topic. To milk the following they have, they publish hour-long talks weekly and then profit on that video again with DF clips. All of this funnels into their Patreon. From the last 30 days, March 1st, 2025, DF pulled in at least $20,000 from these 3 platforms, and that's not including sponsorships and web ad revenue. So in the middle of producing one of these videos, Alex is criticizing profit angles. I don't know about other YouTubers, but it takes me weeks to produce this content. I consult with advanced engineers and write up content that contains digestible education for both consumers and developers. Yeah. My team is also working on a proprietary plan to get our goals funded without the need for crowdfunding. I've had to give away equity of my company to my employees because we can't survive on YouTube revenue alone. I barely promote my merch, yet the only thing I ask viewers to do is watch and share our content. After this pointless, poorly received clip was shared for a second time on DF Clips, I became aware of another video by Alex Battaglia that was the equivalent of telling me, "Here's my coffin, here's a nail, and all I needed to do is hit it with a hammer." Alex butchers his so-called journalism with angles based on whether or not he can get an interview with a studio that produces the game he reviews.
Yeah, this is not to say he's right or wrong. I'm showing you this as an example that there's people have issues with Digital Foundry that are not just console fanboys. They have legit like grievances with them and how they do their business and how they cover their content and how they push their opinions on technology onto their viewers.
He is not getting an interview with the Monster Hunter Wilds devs, so there's no point in pretending the title is more technically advanced than it actually is, something I called him out for doing in my Alan Wake 2 analysis video. Alex could not paint over the obvious criticisms people are rightfully giving this game, and he finally delivers criticisms people have only found in my videos such as PS3-like, but he pairs them with defensive and self-nurturing comments designed to advocate for his years of experience. 3 cringy times he directs viewers' attention to his so-called competence. He's been with DF for 7 years and my comments are causing this much insecurity. But guess what? Alex gave what I consider basic criticism to a game that everyone already knew was trash. He took the ugliest game he could find to prove to everyone that watching he has what it takes to give harsh criticism. He's done this before with titles like Starfield, where he mostly copied other people's criticisms. He completely ended up exposing his bias because the criticisms he gave Monster Hunter Wilds were criticisms I expected DF to call out in better looking titles. He hones in on the poor texture quality in Monster Hunter Wilds, calling it PS3-like, yet he should have said the same thing about the Indiana Jones games, but he was too busy interviewing machine games with his NVIDIA babysitter. His Alan Wake 2 analysis never showed the issues I mentioned because he was too busy interviewing Remedy Entertainment. Alex states that these issues can get patched out, which rarely solve core development issues like this, and he slams the performance drops found during the camera panning. But let's remember that the Spider-Man 2 port from Nixie suffers from the same problem. Yet, Alex makes special concessions during a video about all the issues present in the port and says that it wouldn't be beneficial to consumers to point them out since Nixies would patch them out. The fact that he considers his basic ratchet and click analysis harsh also shows his sensitivity when poking at studios he interviews. While Nixies is very good about accessibility, the performance of their titles and the recent awakening of upscaling culture has been more than extremely disappointing, which explains why on X/Twitter one of their employees attacked our channel. Ask yourself who did
clean up their mess. What's this?
My overall issue with Digital Foundry is that they cultivate a culture of ignorance that is based on blind guessing, which negatively influences the market of both developers and gamers.
I can't disagree there.
Let's go back to that first Digital Foundry clip I mentioned. The first thing Richard says is, "What can I say? From my perspective," and he basically goes into, "Let's guess about X." They constantly make assumptions on why X behaves this way or why Z performs that way. A perfect example of this is Alex's Alan Wake 2 coverage, where he defends poor performance with casual guessing he just makes up, such as imaginary RTGI, versus my video, which actually explains in great detail why performance is demanding by showing the exact data. Another example is when Richard assumed checkerboard rendering was in use on the PS5 Days Gone port because hair in motion showed checkerboard patterns, when anyone who knows basic shader capabilities knows that that appearance could be the result of a dithered shader applied to it. Alex did something similar in his TAA video when he displayed dithered hair while mentioning low resolution rendering for TAA abuse. Hair is not an effect that can be ran at a lower resolution because it's geometry based.
Yeah, so like when actual developers go through their examples, that's why these guys are getting upset with them, because they're not actually they're making guesses, and then you have these news sites that will report the guesses as being actual facts. And that's he's calling this out, and I think that's 100% correct. I agree with that.
Resolution, unless you want to discuss VRS shading,
see what he says
which
here.
allows these to have independent temporal smoothing. Many games just have dither shaders applied to geometry to abuse flawed TAA behavior. Alex pulled up the random buzzword BVH quality to explain why foliage isn't evaluated in Ratchet & Clank's ray tracing. BVH is just help categorize objects in a more optimized way for ray tracing performance. If you watch my Alan Wake 2 analysis, you'll understand why foliage usually adds a costly evaluation step for ray tracing. Digital Foundry also spoon-feeds marketing narratives for manipulative developers. Thomas Morgan collaborated with the developers of Black Ops 6 to showcase the PS5 improvements, but one of Thomas's comments stated that PSSR was introducing flickering artifacts because unlike the engine's default TAA, it's not tuned to denoise the output. So viewers of that video go off thinking that this is acceptable development, when in reality only blurry or expensive flawed TAA can denoise what many, including myself, consider incomplete and neglected rendering aspects. PSSR is too accumulative, allowing it to hold poor hair rendering well enough, but it's more aggressive and
Yes, Brando, I already said earlier, I do disagree with him on some things, like some of the stuff, but not everything. Some of the stuff he says I think is correct, but that's just my opinion.
Motion behavior. This in turn makes it a more visually competent solution that can't be abused as much as their fully incompetent engine TAA. The constantly pushed narrative behind TAA's so-called optimizing performance is that it's going to remove parts of the graphic pipeline for TAA to replace for free. This ends up freeing up the GPU time, hence more FPS. But let's get out of fairy tale land and understand that FPS counters don't mean
that's what this guy is trying to do. He's trying to educate people more so from a developer standpoint. And he's calling out, this is what I agree with him about them guessing on things is just, I think it's unacceptable. That's why these guys are not developers. Like Digital Foundry is not a developer, and they go and make guesses and they end up being wrong.
But it's more aggressive and
they get called out for it later.
Behavior. Games. A lot of people accuse me of randomly going after Alex Battaglia without properly reaching out to Digital Foundry as a whole. And we need to go back months ago to get proper context. Months before our first video when I first found out.
So he basically goes into how rubes are warped and complacency. Let's see what it says here.
A lesson. I don't hate Alex or Digital Foundry, but you should unsubscribe from them because their low quality content culminates in building a culture of ignorance, which contends with our goal in creating a new and improved paradigm in which consumers know and understand the inner workings of the games they consider buying. I am trying to demystify it and encourage solutions for the future of gaming. People often quote Digital Foundry and create a gullible appearance of consumers. The modern development industry has detected this ignorance and will continue to abuse it until consumers make the shift towards the awareness we offer them. Digital Foundry and everyone else seething at this channel's success will only defend themselves with irrelevant fallacies. Let's go through them one by one, shall we? He's too young, he hasn't shipped a game yet, they hate him on Reddit. That is the ad hominem fallacy in which my character or
we know
credentials
they hate you because you're so aggressive. We get it, buddy.
And, well, I'd rather
that's basically the point. Like, this guy is obviously, you know, doesn't sound like a guy I would want to hang out with, but like, I basically just want to show you that this exists out there. That you know, these guys, these tech guys actually have some legit issues with Digital Foundry because they've been known to just make guesses, report incorrect information, speak like they're developers when they're not, telling people what's certain settings, what they are in games when they're not that, basically just being like fake developers, basically. And real developers and guys who are really tech-minded and do a lot of deep diving and a lot of research, they have an issue with that. And I totally understand that, and I agree. I don't agree with this guy's take on how upscaling is a crutch. I think upscaling is as long as it's good upscaling and not like terrible FSR upscaling, as long as it's good upscaling like DLSS and something you can't notice too much with your eyes, and like this new methods that Nintendo is using with Switch 2, this allows for more games to be ported to more devices, which I think is a great positive thing for gaming and not a negative. His problem is like with DLSS is that he thinks it's holding developers to a lower standard so that they don't have to optimize their games very well. Just slap some DLSS in there and call it a day, but not actually optimize their games. And also using really low quality ray tracing, like we saw in Oblivion. That doesn't actually make the game look that much better. It just gives you a more realistic reflection. But there's artifacts that are introduced because the technology has not advanced fast enough for them to actually give you a perfect looking reflection without some like dithering artifacts in the water in that reflection that we saw with Oblivion. Right here. So like these little sparkles here and everything, that's not supposed to be there. It may be hard for you to see, but I can see it. And like a real reflection, even though you're not seeing the reflection of the tree here, will not have any of these little artifacts in there. It'll actually just be flat and clean, and you'll see the reflection, but you won't see all the little noise, the noise artifacts that go along with it. So the point I'm trying to make is that we're not there yet. We're not quite there yet as far as having a ray traced experience that everyone can enjoy for the masses. We're just not there yet. Yeah, and it's true what you say. People don't like it because they don't have the hardware. That's true. I think ray tracing is nice. When it's used correctly, and I have the hardware to run it. I do actually have the hardware to run it, and I think it looks great in certain circumstances. And in some circumstances, I think it looks worse because there's artifacts and there's just simply things that are not quite on the level they need to be yet because the technology hasn't advanced yet. Developers keep trying to put more and more and more effects on top of each other to the point where it doesn't matter what hardware you have. You can have the RTX 5090 I'm going to unbox soon. It doesn't matter what hardware you have. You're never going to be able to have a perfect looking image with ray tracing right now because they just don't have it ready yet. The best example of almost perfect looking ray tracing is I think in Cyberpunk 2077 with the path tracing. Guess what though? You need at least an RTX like 3080 Ti or 3090 just to even run that at all at any decent frame rates. If you want 60 frames per second, 4K with path tracing turned on, you need a RTX 4090 or 5090 or 4080 Ti or what have you, or 5080 Ti. You need to have that or else you just can't run it. Less than 1% of gamers out there own a PC that can run games at the maximum ray tracing level with 4K, all the bells and whistles. The stats are about less than 1%. So that leaves you with the majority of games turning this off and simply looking like this. But you have these guys like Digital Foundry who go and tell you what you need to think, what looks good and what doesn't look good.
Key areas. Water reflections look visibly poorer, and ambient shadow areas. The game looks a lot worse in many key areas. Water reflections look visibly poorer, and ambient shadowing and lighting is heavily gutted.
Heavily gutted.
So it is not a free lunch. If you could stomach that loss to fidelity, which I think many can, that added performance.
He admits that people can. Well, yeah, of course they can, because they don't have the hardware to run it at max settings. Like, how ridiculous is this? So that's the great divide that we have here. Yeah, a 70 Ti, yeah, you can run this stuff. But you need to. I'm talking about like 4K, max settings, something like that. You need to have it running a really low DLSS quality, basically a lower quality to get that, and at 30 frames. But yeah, it's just not quite there yet. I think people need to understand that when you see these guys make these blanket opinions about what looks bad versus what looks good, they're coming from an angle of using like the best hardware in the market or using the best settings in the market versus something that isn't using the best settings in the market. But does it look worse, or does it just look different? It looks different. You could say this. You can have arguments saying this looks worse because of artifacts. You could say it looks better because of the reflection of the tree here. You could say this looks better because it's cleaner and there's no artifacts. And you could say it looks worse because there's no tree showing in the reflection. But there is a blanket reflection here, I guess, probably cube maps or whatever from the background, which most people I think would look great, would think it looks great. The resolution and the image quality looks great. So if this does come to Switch 2, what you're likely going to see is you're going to see me do a comparison probably of that game if I get it. I already have it on PC, and it'll probably be a lot like Street Fighter 6, where Street Fighter 6, let's see, where you're going to have it look better on PC, but is anybody going to care if the Switch 2 version doesn't look quite as bleeding edge and nice as the PC version? The answer is no. Because this console is for the mass market. This hardware that is going to run games at maximum settings like we did on Tuesday, this is for a very, very low percentage of gamers to actually, use the hardware to run the games at the highest, best quality out there. The point is to try to you want to have games available for everybody to enjoy. And I think that's where DLSS and Nintendo's direction with Switch 2, I think is extremely good for gaming, because you're going to be getting brand new games for the masses. You're not going to be having hardware that's going to be limiting your audience to be able to. You can't play games like Street Fighter 6. The Switch 1 can't run this game. It would look awful if it did. Like, it would be a compromised experience. Basically, you wouldn't have the game that Capcom wants to release as bearing the name Street Fighter 6 if it was ported to Switch 1. You would have a Mortal Kombat 1 situation where it looks like gutted, completely missing graphics, completely missing shaders, running at a horrible frame rate, horrible resolution. You don't get that with Street Fighter 6 here on Switch 2 because Nintendo did upgrade their hardware, and now it looks really, really good. And does it look good enough? Absolutely. In fact, it looks better than good enough. It looks great. PC version, yes. PC version looks better. Like, obviously, you can see it. You can see the PC version looks better. Here, this PC version, you zoom in, you get all the fine little details on PC, right? You don't really get that on the Switch. You get, let me see, we have an example of it on the Switch here. You do get the fine details on Switch, but they're a little bit less refined, right? But he still looks great though. It's another version of great. And PC, you're on PC, you get 4K, a native 4K, and you have all the fine little details of his skin. You see his little pores and everything up close. Everything is super refined and high resolution. But again, it doesn't look that much different than the Switch 2 version because it's the same exact game. You're getting lesser detail refinements on Switch 2. But it's still a very, very nice representation of the game. See? Yeah, you got finer detail on his skin. You see little scars, and here you don't. But you still see it a little bit. It's just less refined. But you're never going to notice it during gameplay if you don't have a side-by-side comparison. So yeah, Brando, I'm not doing Q&A right now. We're doing it after I'm done with all this. So that's the thing. That's the thing we're dealing with here. Do you want to have all your games be available for everybody? Do you want to have people to enjoy games on the go and at home? You want to have games that look good enough, close enough to the actual full, like PC version counterpart? Yes, you do. How do you do that? Well, you do it with the tricks of the trade. You do it with DLSS, like we showed here. Let's show this one more time. Okay. This is how you do it. How do you get your games on for a mass market console for everyone to enjoy? Your little kids, your mom, your dad, everyone wants to buy the console to take it on the go with you. You do this. You use AI upscaling DLSS customized for your own console. This is 540p, and you see it transform in front of your eyes to upscaling it 1 frame, 2 frames to 1080p. And it looks absolutely amazing. Like, this is why I said in my video from Thursday, the custom DLSS graphics quality is stunning. It is. I try my best not to clickbait you guys. I try my best to actually tell you exactly what I'm covering in the video. That's the interesting thing. The interesting thing of the video is that it looks great, and here's why. Like, I guess that's my motivation for making the content. But yeah, it's one of those things. And yeah, a lot of people who are like really into Steam Deck, I saw online, are really angry about anything with Switch 2 looking better than Steam Deck. Really angry stuff, like really this bitter, people out there. You can't just be happy for a new console that's actually forwarding technology in a way that is not being done by other consoles. You got to put it down and try to make light of what it's doing. I'll tell you right now, Steam Deck can't do this. Steam Deck cannot do this. Neither can PlayStation 5, neither can Xbox Series X, and neither can Xbox Series S, and neither can ROG Ally, and they're not even really doing this form of DLSS in PC either. But yeah, this is only being done in Switch 2. Literally magical. I think it's great. This is actually the future of gaming for the masses. The future of gaming, for as far as the hardware is concerned, that's another story. Because like for like actual hardware, how can you make a console affordable and then use ray tracing and all these other features? You can't do it, guys. You literally cannot do that right now. It's going to be another 10 years probably. So like, this is actually the wave of the future. Rendering it at lower resolutions for lesser spec hardware to get more games to the people. That is where games should be going. You want more people to enjoy gaming, not less people to enjoy it, and to block them off because you need to have the highest spec hardware to run this really amazing ray tracing. No, actually, you can just turn ray tracing off, have some good reflections with cube maps or screen space, or use some really good art for example. Like actually have good artists doing it. Like Metroid Prime 4 has amazing artists making all those shadow effects. They're hand drawing those into the game. You can do that, and guess what? You don't need any ray tracing at all to do that. Ray tracing will give you the reflections realistically, like automatically put into the game, and then the artists don't have to do much with that. They can just let the hardware do the work for them. But that cuts so many people off to enjoy something that looks really good if you just segregate it off to a ray tracing only hardware. That being said, Switch 2 does have the ability to do ray tracing. But I really think where we need to go in gaming is to focus on just making great games and making great art design in games, and having your technology do just enough in order to run the latest, technologies, the latest engines and everything. I don't really think developers should worry so much about using hardware-based ray tracing in games. Even on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, this generation, they've proven already that they simply can't do it yet. It's just not there yet. The technology has not advanced far enough for consoles to really compete or have an experience that runs really smoothly with all these effects turned on. You might as well just have a bare minimum, maybe just use some ray trace reflections on some games and call it a day, or just don't use them at all and still port your games over to consoles like Switch 2 and have them run really well and look really good. See? Cyberpunk 2077, this isn't using ray tracing at all, and it looks great. Because the art design is still there, and it's still pushing a lot of tech without ray tracing in the first place. So, what can you say? Let's see, was there something else? We got Metroid Prime 4 here, Nintendo Direct. I think that was about everything I wanted to cover in that. But yeah, like Metroid Prime 4... this is CG, but like we said, this is real time. But yeah, like we said though, this game is a great example of showing you what you can do with art design mixed with technology that has upgraded to the point where you can run this at native 4K 60 frames and then still upgrade the graphics on top of that. You know what I mean? Like, so you have great artists at Retro Studios are going to be doing some amazing things with Switch 2, and this is a Switch 1 game that they've enhanced on Switch 2. But like, this is all about that art style and the art direction of where they're placing, like how they design the levels. What makes games enjoyable is how they're designed, like how you actually play the game. That's what makes games fun. It's not just having some reflection here. They're adding their own reflections and lighting and with hand-drawn art in this game for the most part. And it looks amazing. It looks great. All these little details like water coming down the window there. Like this kind of stuff, those little details is what Retro Studios does. They do a great job on this stuff. ambient lighting, you know, like it's all baked in. You know, like this stuff is all baked in there. Some of it's not real time, some of it is, but it makes a huge difference. So it's one of those things. You don't know if it's native. Oh, well, I mean, Nintendo said it's native, and yes, even Digital Foundry said that it's native 4K. So, you know, their pixel counting is pretty much usually spot on Digital Foundry, and their frame rate analysis is usually spot on. It's what I said before is their opinions that are not, and they've had some questionable things with what they're doing with looking up trailer footage and trying to guess about what it's doing. That's where they're running into problems. When they actually have the actual like games in front of them and actually like capturing footage, they're usually spot on with like pixel counting. According to Digital Foundry, they say this is native 4K. They counted all the pixels, whatever. Either way though, Nintendo's marketing is all over this game, saying it's 4K 60 frames in dock mode and 120 frames per second 1080p in portal mode. And from the looks of it, it does look like it is. That's from my opinion too. Yeah, save your questions for after the fact. All right, so we're gonna get to the Q&A in a minute here. Okay. All right. So we have an RTX 5090 in the house. All right. Give me 1 second here. RTX 5090. 1 second. This is a Metroid Prime 2, by the way, this background. That's the menu in Metroid Prime 2 before you get in there into the main menu. I got it as a animated background here. It's pretty cool. Okay. All right, so this is the world's most powerful. You're talking about power. This is the world's most powerful GPU. Built by NVIDIA. I got this sent to me directly by NVIDIA themselves. I was chosen in one of their emails. You sign up for their email list to be given a chance to buy an RTX 5090. So I signed up. I signed up for yeah, that's the GPU, the big box. I signed up for their list back in January, and they emailed me earlier, like what was it, on Monday, I think. Yeah, was it Monday? This past Monday, asking me if I'd be interested in buying a RTX 5090 from them at MSRP, which is $199.99, $1,999. No fuss, no muss. Just, well, you buy it, MSRP, we'll ship it out to you. The Founders Edition, the best one, which is a 2-slot card, and it's the best graphics card in the market. In a few months to be below MSRP. Are you kidding me? You can't even buy one of these things for $3,000. I don't know what you're talking about, buddy. Finding anything in MSRP for GPUs, you will not be able to get it below MSRP. If you can, congrats to you, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. Especially not for the Founders Edition, because you can't even find the Founders Edition hardly anymore. Best Buy was the only one selling them, unless you get it directly from NVIDIA. Most of the cards you buy at Micro Center, for example, they're $3,000. eBay, they're over 3,000, maybe 4,000. So yeah, you're not getting this for $199.99 unless you happen to find one somehow at Best Buy. So yeah. Same thing happened with the 4090. You waited and the supply increased. You got it for $1,300. Oh, good for you, man. We're in a different market right now, though. We got a lot of crazy stuff going on with price increases, tariffs, right? So I wouldn't. If you want to wait for a supposed price drop, which almost never happens, then good on you. But yeah, the MSRP price for the MSI versions of GPUs, those could drop in price, but the problem is that those are already almost $3,000. So yeah, they may drop those to like $2,300, but the MSRP is $199.99 for the Founders Edition, and that's the one I got. So yeah, there's always somebody. There's always going to be somebody. Let me see. Let's see if I can open this up. I'm gonna put my mic a little farther away. You might not hear me as well, but it's okay. Let's see. So I already took off the bottom part, so I can actually open the box up. Let me see here. Get this open. Right, kind of cramped for space. Okay. All right. It comes in a box like this. It's like a double box. Okay. Let's take this out. All right, let me see here. You gotta be careful here. Let me see. Trying to do this live. So this is not the GPU. This is just the box that's holding the GPU. Okay. It is heavy. Let's see. Inside there. Looks like we have the power cable inside. Take a look. Am I starting a new build? No, this is my new build. I've been waiting to get the GPU to finish the build. I already have the 9800X 3D, and I have 64 gigabytes of DDR5 memory, new motherboard, the latest and greatest, and 4 terabyte SSD. And the only thing was missing was the new GPU. Here is the NVIDIA power cable. This is the one that you should use. You should use the one that comes in the box. Don't use third-party cables with the RTX 5090. They've had some issues. Always use the one that comes in the box. That message directly from NVIDIA to me said that. So always use what comes in the box. Don't try to use other cables. Sometimes you can, with no problem. But for this one, just to be safe, just use the one that comes in the box. You should be fine. All right, now let's put this over here. All right. What if Alex Battaglia pops out of the box? And we'll send him home. What does he say? A Vita's in? Whatever. Okay, so yeah. Let's see if I can get this. So these pop off, these parts right here. Yeah, so this pops off each side to keep it in place. Just want to be careful I don't drop it. Got to be careful. All right, there's that one. Okay, we get a little closer here. Okay, so the top piece comes off. So it's kind of like housing the GPU inside, right? I think it's all to is keep it like, you know, protected from anything. And then you on the inside of that, you have the actual GPU. Okay, here we go. So RTX 5090 inside the box. See, it's kind of like sandwiched in. Okay. I'm gonna take it out. All right, here we go. RTX 5090. World's fastest GPU. Okay. And we've got the back of it. The front or back, whichever you want to call it. Fans, 2 fans. Okay. Got the connectors. Yeah, we got your standard connections. Okay. And you have this part. That's where you actually plug in the power cable. Right over here, right here. Yeah. I like that design because you actually can just plug it in at an angle, right? You plug it in at an angle right here, so the cable's not coming out far in front and hitting like the glass of your case or the inside of your case. So you're supposed to plug it in on an angle. And that's it. That's the RTX 5090. This will be going into my gaming PC after we're done with the stream. I'll go ahead and install it. And we'll have fun. Yeah, it's about, I think it's about over 6 pounds heavy. Just the GPU itself. All right. But yeah, that's it. Let's go into Q&A before it gets too late here. We've been going for 2 hours, so really excited. That was my first unboxing on the channel live. So yeah, thanks for coming out and checking that out with me. RTX 5090. Good stuff. Fix my keyboard here. All right, guys. Yeah, tag me in the chat at let's see, tag me. Yeah, tag me on my name and to do the Q&A. Tom, do you have How do you still have the old YouTube UI layout? Mine changed a few days ago. You hate it? Oh, is that the one that has like gigantic gigantic screens now? Some of my devices do have that, if that's what you mean. Otherwise, it hasn't rolled out to everybody yet. RTX 5090 is $2,000. But you won't find one for $2,000 right now. I got lucky and got directly from NVIDIA for $2,000. So. Darth OP. I have heard some say that the Switch 2 game key cards will kill physical gaming, and that Switch 2 will be Nintendo's last physical gaming console. What do you think of this? It could be. That could be possible. Nintendo's always supported physical games, though, so we'll have to wait and see. It's definitely possible, though. I hope not. I hope they continue with physical games, but you never know. Thanks, Chariot Man. Thanks, Keith. That was my first time. Mr. Andrew, pardon the question? No, that's okay. I'm asking for questions. Shall ye do a Mario Kart World comparison or analysis, especially on 8 Deluxe? Thank ye kindly in advance. Nice. Thanks, Andrew. I don't think I will. There's not much really there that is super interesting for Mario Kart World graphically. It looks great, but I don't see why I would want to compare it to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe when it definitely obviously looks better, and there's already been some comparisons out there, so I probably won't worry about that one. What I will be doing is a Cyberpunk 2077 comparison, and probably Street Fighter 6. I've already done some. Maybe Elden Ring. I'm really more interested in the third-party games to compare, because that's where it's going to be. That's where it's going to hit the most for people. They're going to be like, wow, you can play this on Switch 2, Cyberpunk. You can play Elden Ring. You can play whatever new game comes out. Like, wow, people are going to be really wanting to know how those ports work. Kendrick, sorry, Tagron, read above comment. Did I read your comment? Oh. I have two questions. First, how sure are you of that second TAAU upscale to 4K on Street Fighter 6? It doesn't look higher than 1080p at all to my eye, and nobody else has mentioned this. I'm not sure. All I'm saying is that it looks like they could be using something like that to upscale to 4K, because it looks really good. I'm looking at this on my 4K monitor, output at 4K, from the Treehouse capture device that they're using. Here, let's look at it again. I'm streaming this stream at 1440p because I want to have a faster chat with you guys. But if you actually watch this 4K footage from Nintendo, I mean, this doesn't look like 1080p to me. What I mean by that is that if you literally just play these games at 1080, literally like play the game at 1080p, this doesn't just look like 1080p to me. It looks like it's being upscaled from like 1080p to a higher resolution. And this is just from the capture. But you know what I'm saying? I can't tell you for a fact. That's just my opinion, that they could be using TAA to upscale to 1080p. I mean to 4K. We don't know for sure yet, though. But this looks extremely crisp and detailed to me. You're watching at 360p? Yeah, so like Either way, though, like, guarantee the Switch is going to be outputting the game at 4K, like, as far as outputting the game, even if it's not using TAA to upscale, like an actual upscale. Either way, they're going to be outputting the game at 4K in your TV. So I think this looks great. I don't really notice too much of a difference here. I'm watching this at 4K on my, I think my monitor is like 30 inch, almost 30 inch monitor. It's like a foot and a half away from my eyes. So yeah, it looks great to me. It looks better than Xbox Series S. You guys had a lot of questions. I gotta go up. Kay, what is your unannounced dream game you would love to have on Switch 2 and why? Unannounced dream game. Either F-Zero, like a new F-Zero, or a new Star Fox game. But the Star Fox game would need to be either a full commitment to a Star Fox Adventures type of gameplay, or a full commitment to on-rails shooter gameplay. None of this like mixture, like we're not sure what we're doing type of stuff. I want them to have a clear direction for Star Fox. So either go full-on Star Fox Adventures or go full-on shooter on rails. But don't do like this little half steps here, half steps there. Don't do a discombobulated game. But that'll be my dream game. Have a clear direction for Star Fox and have it be awesome. I really want Star Fox to make a big comeback. Yeah, 2000's not bad for what it is. What type of Gundam are you building with an RTX 5090? Gundam? I'm building a skyscraper version, like the biggest kind RPX. How loud do the fans get when on a full load, Harrison? I don't know yet. I haven't installed the GPU yet. From what I'm hearing, though, it's not really that loud from what people have said in reviews. Let's see. How long do you think Switch 2's lifespan and as Nintendo's prime console? That's funny. Probably going to be the same length as Switch 1. It's probably going to be getting strong support for at least 6 to 7 years, and then by the 8th year, it's going to have another console that's been announced and on the way. That's my guess. At least 6 to 7 years, if not more, is going to be for Switch 2. Switch 1 has been 8 years already, but the last year, things have gotten a lot slower. So I would say 6 to 7 years is for strong support is a really good number. What could you do in games with a 5090 that you couldn't do with the 4090? You could do multi-frame gen, which is 4 times the frame gen with the 5090, which means you could have support for better support for high refresh rate displays, which is what I have. And you also have better overall performance in the 4090 in games like Black Myth Wukong, Cyberpunk 2077 with full ray tracing and path tracing. Yes, it's not like the biggest, like upgrade, but it is the best in the market. And if you're a guy like me, a content creator, and you can do like write-offs as far as your taxes are concerned, it's just what I do. I get the latest and greatest stuff because I'm doing content creating. I want to have the best looking games possible, best display possible. I want to output them streaming in the best way. I have 2 computers. I have a streaming PC here that can stream in native 4K and have the best looking streams possible. I just upgraded my internet. My internet went down, what was it, last week? Week and a half ago or so? No, yeah, it was before last week. Internet had a huge problem. So I upgraded my internet, brand new modem. So now I can stream in 4K 60 frames with no problem, and it's going to look fantastic. So yeah, I'm very much all about having the best visual quality possible on games, streams, my content. I'm very much into that kind of thing, and I want to make the best videos possible when I do make them, high quality. I'm very tech-minded. I like to dig deep in that kind of stuff, and I like to see the little details and point them out. And that's why when you got stuff going on with Digital Foundry, that's when I have some issues there because I don't really think they're doing as much of an in-depth job as they could be, and they're missing things. They missed many things already, as we pointed out. Thank you, Mr. Andrew. Appreciate your comment. Tony Khan. Oh yeah, you forgot to tag me. I'm still very curious of what Square Enix will be bringing in Final Fantasy VII Remake integrated for Switch 2 and how well it performs. Yeah, well, good news. If Square Enix uses what Nintendo just provides them in their dev kit, it looks like you'll be getting Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Not just Remake. Remake can run on Steam Deck, no problem. But Rebirth also can run on Steam Deck. But Rebirth is a problem on PS5 because it doesn't even use FSR. It uses like some kind of like nearest neighbor upscaling technique on that game, and it looks terrible on PS5. It looks very blurry. So if they just use what's in the dev kit, they could do another 540p to 1080p upscale blah 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 thing on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and have it have image quality that looks like this. So I don't think we have any. That's probably why like these companies are excited to port their games. They can just port the new games, have a blanket way to like port them at lower resolutions without people even noticing that they're doing that. And the end result is something that looks really, really fun and really, really good for people. Do we think GTA 6 is doable on Switch 2? Yes. It'll likely be 30 frames per second and upscaling it from lower resolutions as we just talked about. Oh yeah, if you game at 8K, this will be able to do 8K gaming. I don't have an 8K monitor right now, so I'm not quite there yet. So yeah, you could say I'm not the bleedingest of edge possible, but yeah, it's good. This is by far the best PC right now you can have. So sure, I may not have the best monitor you could buy, but you could spend thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on monitors. Hold on one second. One second, guys. All right, sorry about that. Heard something at the door. Everything's fine. Okay. Yeah, make sure you tag me in the questions. Let's put some Metroid Prime 4 footage up there. Okay. Or Tony, what are your thoughts on what was it? Fast Fusion? If they're shooting in prison a teaser in 4K 60, with the memory size less than 4 gigs? Yeah, it looks. I mean, sure. I mean, they always do a great job in providing games that are really tiny in memory size and look really good. But I'm not like super impressed by it. It looks just like a better looking fast racing Neo. So sure, great. You know, I'll probably play it though, to be honest with you, because they usually don't cost too much. I really want a new F-Zero game. So I really hope Nintendo just releases a new F-Zero game, because I want to, be invested in a new F-Zero. Fast racing is good, but it's not really something that really excites me. I want a new F-Zero game. Yeah, I have a 144 hertz LG monitor. I didn't go out and buy a new monitor for the RTX 5090. I could do that later and get a 240 hertz monitor, but right now I'm okay with 144 hertz. It's just a lot of stuff to buy all that with. I wasn't even sure I could get the 5090 in the first place. I just was surprised by NVIDIA emailing me and telling me hey, you want to buy it? So I didn't actually have a monitor ready to go for it because I wasn't sure I could even get it. So yeah, that might be the next thing I get is a 240 hertz monitor. Yeah. I got 144 right now, 4K. Fast Fusion is price of about $15 or so. Good. What's up, OCDXN? Do you respect my point of view? Oh, thanks, buddy. David J. Why do you think Digital Foundry downplayed the Switch 2, comparing it to a base PS4, and they chuckled when NVIDIA said it was 10 times more powerful than OG Switch? They do that a lot. David, were you here from the entire stream? You saw my entire breakdown of the issues I have with Digital Foundry. It's not just me. It's tech enthusiasts, developers, and other YouTube channels that don't cover Nintendo also have an issue with Digital Foundry as well because of various different reasons. But yeah, they laugh at anything that looks less than stellar or maybe less spec'd. They'll laugh at it. I noticed that. And yeah, it definitely can seem condescending, and it is. And as far as them downplaying the Switch 2, they've been doing that ever since the Switch 2 was even rumored. They said it wasn't gonna be even as more powerful than a Steam Deck, and that's factually wrong. We know that. So yeah, they've been doing that ever since the Switch 2 was even just in the rumor form. It's like, well, like no matter what, it's never going to be more powerful than a Steam Deck. I would just expect barely even PS4 performance. That's what you should expect from Switch 2. That's what they've been saying since 2023 or 24 when it was rumors. Bespoke. Yeah, they like that. They like those words. Bespoke. All that stuff. Yeah. So I was just trying to educate you guys a little bit on a different point of view as to why Digital Foundry it's not a fanboy kind of mentality here on this channel. I'm not like trying to find my way to like be angry at Digital Foundry because they defamed my bespoke Nintendo console. It's not it. I have issues with how they actually cover their games in general. They actually telling you how much worse Oblivion looks. How the reflections are poor, when literally it looks like the same exact screenshot comparison they're doing, and they're saying things look bad to the viewer. That is their opinion. It's not a fact, and they've been doing that for years. I can't stand that about that site. It drives me nuts. Yeah, I know, Harrison. It's Alex and a little bit of Richard Ledbetter. John Lindemann and Ollie, whatever his name is. Is it Ollie? I thought his name was something else. But yeah, I mean, they also have their viewpoints are also skewed a little bit in. They also are not quite there either. But like, it's lesser with them because they're like more so like covering consoles more so. It's Oliver. There you go. So yeah, not everybody is like that at that site, but that's the issue though, is that they have people that are that way, and they don't argue with each other. They don't disagree with each other. They disagree with each other. So like, you could say that their entire group is that way because they don't really correct each other. They just do what the other guy, they just go with what one guy says, because they consider Alex to be the PC guy to go to. He's the expert at ray tracing and resolution. So of course they're not going to disagree with him because he's the expert. But yeah, I don't agree with how they cover their games at this point. It's more so it's for every game. It's not just for Switch games. It's for everything they cover, especially with when he covers stuff. Putting your opinion, telling people something looks bad when it obviously doesn't. As far as my opinion, right? I can't tell you what looks good and what looks bad. I had this. This goes back to the Switch 1, actually, for me personally. I remember when the Switch 1 came out, I was getting a lot of hate from Nintendo fans. They were very angry with me because I was saying these games look terrible on Switch 1. Back in 2017, I was like, this looks bad. Like, this is not an upgrade from Wii U, and it wasn't. It was barely even an upgrade from Wii U. I was very disappointed in the graphics of Switch. They got better on a lot of some of the games they did later on. They did a lot better, but first impressions I was not impressed. And but it's portable. They're trying to do things no one's ever done before. It's on the TV and on the go. I'm like, great. The games still look terrible though. You just hate Nintendo. Like, no, I'm just not impressed by these graphics. I'm sorry. And people were not happy with that because people wanted Nintendo to win and do well, which I totally understand. They're coming out with the Wii U. You don't want someone to poo-poo your bespoke Nintendo console. See, and we're coming out full circle here. But I was not impressed at all with the original Switch's capabilities. I just wasn't. Yes, I get it. They're going for portable stuff, but like the issue with Switch 1 is that they were trying too hard to port games that were not designed to work on the system. So you had games that looked really, really bad. Distractingly bad on Switch 1. So you had like games like Wolfenstein New Colossus, which looked awful on Switch 1. Just blurry mess, smeared resolution, Vaseline all over the screen, hurts your eyes type of stuff for some of these ports. The Nintendo first party games, for the most part, looked great. Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Pikmin 4, right? Metroid Prime Remastered, Metroid Dread. The Nintendo first-party games looked fantastic. They were designed to use the strengths of the console, but it was these third-party games. Luigi's Mansion 3 looked amazing. But when you actually had these third parties try to get their games working on Switch 1, like it got to the point where people were defending on Twitter these games that looked like complete garbage mess. It doesn't look that bad. You just hate Nintendo. It doesn't look that bad. No, it looks bad. It's okay. It's okay to admit it. It's okay to admit these games look terrible. Yeah, but it's portable. You can take it on the go. Yeah, so what? Does it look good? No. Sorry. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, for example, looks terrible, I think, in my opinion. That game looks like a blurry mess on TV. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 looks better, but not as bad as Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Xenoblade Chronicles X, the port on the Switch, looks amazing. They did a fantastic job, but that took them 8 years to port that game to Switch from the Wii U. But like, I was extremely impressed by that. So yeah, they've done an amazing job with getting their software development in place with Switch 1, but it took them a long time. What's the first game you'll try once the 5090s fit in your PC? It's on loop. Probably Cyberpunk 2077 or Black Myth Wukong. One of the most demanding games. Maybe Half-Life RTX. Let me show you something. Let me show you. Let me show you something. Teach you guys. Let me see. Let's see. Now, of course, I need to use Digital Foundry for this. That's the problem, though. That's the problem with sites like Digital Foundry. For many, many years, there just wasn't anybody else doing this kind of footage. So you have to rely on these sites to provide you with comparisons and frame rate analysis. That's all. Resolution, numbers, frame rate analysis, side-by-side comparisons. That is literally the only reason why I still am subscribed and watch Digital Foundry. I don't care about their opinions. I think they should shut the heck up in terms of what their opinions are. For what you're going to tell me what looks good? No, I'll decide for myself. Thank you very much. Especially with what they said just today in their Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. That was ridiculous. Don't like that. Don't you tell me what looks good. I'll decide for myself. Thank you very much. All right, so Wolfenstein, the new Colossus on Switch. Yeah, oh yeah, you guys are hyping it up, sure. This is how bad it got. This was done in year one, okay? So yeah, this was year one of the Switch. This came out in, I think, the end of 2017 or so, or is it early 2018? But yeah, January 2018, they did their analysis of Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus on Switch 1. Yes, they're zooming in, but like, this is how bad things were looking. It was so distracting. I'm looking at this up close on my 4K monitor. It looks really, really blurry and everything. Yes, if you're looking at this on a mobile device or your mobile phone, a tiny little screen, this might not look so terrible to you, but this looks really bad to me. And it always looked bad. Okay? And it's not about Dan. It's not about it being a portable system, not a supercomputer. Yeah, we know that. It's the whole point of this stream. We're talking about the differences and where we're not going in gaming and where we are going in gaming. The point is to have something that actually bridges the gap. And I don't really think Switch 1 was quite there yet with stuff like this. This looked awful. Sure, maybe on the go, maybe it could be more passable on this tiny screen. But the Switch 1 was supposed to be a device that was supposed to be giving you a home console experience on your TV screen and on the go. So I don't think in the early days of Switch 1, especially, they were really pulling that off very well. You're getting very low frame rates, extremely blurry, low resolution games, and neutered graphics. So that's why I'm saying with Switch 2, you're not getting this anymore. You're getting something that is going to have the same exact content, and the same look of the game is still going to be there intact, but it's not going to be completely compromised. And this is going to hurt your eyes. Like seriously, this hurts my eyes even to look at. Having to focus your eyes on such a blurry mess of a game. It may be okay to play on the go that way, but on your TV, this is where the actual Switch idea of the Switch doesn't make any sense. That was the issue with a lot of these early games on Switch 1, and they got better with it as time went on. But this is a perfect example of just like, why would you want to play this? Is because it's more so it's distracting. I don't want to play games that look distractingly noticeably bad. I want to play games that look good enough, acceptable. And I think that what they're doing with Switch 2 is more than that. I think with Cyberpunk 2077 and Cyberpunk 2077, they're doing more than what's good enough. They're doing something that looks really, really good on Switch 2. You're not getting a severely compromised experience. You're not getting a severely downgraded image. You're not seeing the system just almost die, trying to run the game. And this is a launch game. So there's a huge difference between my interest in technical terms as far as being excited for third-party support on a Nintendo console versus Switch 1. So, I hope that makes sense. So yeah, I'm not going to sit there and lie to people and say, like, I'm impressed by how blurry and low resolution and choppy this game looks on Switch 1. But at least it can run it all. Like, no. Why? Don't even put it on there. If it can't even look like the same game hardly at all, don't even do it. That was the issue with Switch 1 for me. But for Switch 2, it looks like they have solved that issue. And for this with the launch game, things like this bodes really well for Switch 2. They were just getting started. See what I mean? Hope that makes sense to you guys. But yeah, this is supposed to be a Q&A, so let me go back. Yes. Let's see, I missed what some of you guys said. Huh? I don't know what some of you guys are talking about. Do you think Nintendo will implement DLSS for free for the free update with OG Switch games? It's certainly possible. They did make it possible to do that for Switch 1 games because they are emulating them on Switch 2. It's not actually running a Tegra X1 processor. Will they do that though? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know for sure. They seem to like to be charging for people to upgrade to Switch 2 editions, but there is some information out there that said that some Switch 1 games will run and look better, get like a boost a little bit on Switch 2, but there's no details on if they're actually allowing for DLSS to be implemented into Switch 1 games. So I'm sure it is possible though. I'm sure they could do it. Whether they will or not, I don't know. Yeah, RAM bottleneck. Not just a RAM bottleneck, GPU bottleneck, CPU bottleneck. Switch 1 is bottleneck completely because it was originally designed. The Tegra X1 was originally designed by NVIDIA to be basically like an Xbox 360 on the go. And they did that, which is amazing. But that came out in 2015. So, for all the years that the Switch 1 had to use that same stock processor by NVIDIA, it wasn't actually designed for Nintendo. Nintendo actually has a chip designed by NVIDIA that's actually customized for Switch 2 from the ground up that no other device has from NVIDIA. So that's a huge difference for Switch 2. This makes this console so much better in so many ways for Nintendo. It has like, what, 4 times the RAM? 3 times the RAM? Yeah, 3 times the RAM, 12 gigabytes. Yeah, Brando, you're not tagging me, by the way. My name is Super Metal Dave 64. So at Super Metal Dave 64. I'm sorry, I'm getting dropped a lot. Delayed. What do you mean? Just refresh your page. I'm not getting any drops on my end. I got smooth sailing. My internet is fixed. I'm uploading at 25 MBs per second at 1440p, 60 frames. Everything looks great on my end. So if you have any problems with your stream, guys, just refresh your browser. I will be putting timestamps on this live stream. The entire Digital Foundry segment will be timestamped. The entire segment about DLSS on Switch 2 and Street Fighter 6 will be timestamped. Everything will be timestamped, Q&A and everything. In case you missed some stuff, you can go back and watch later. My unboxing of the RTX 5090 will be timestamped as well. Yeah, it's 12 gigabytes of RAM, Keith. It's confirmed by the leaked motherboard. You can actually see the serial number of the RAM sticks on the Switch 2 motherboard. 100% confirmed LPDDR5X at 7200 megatransfers per second, which is pretty much the fastest memory, and 12 gigabytes. What do you think of Split Fiction on Switch 2? I think it looks great. Looks great. Again, you're getting the same game with lowered settings. Still looks really good on Switch 2. And I've seen the PS5 Pro comparisons to the Switch 2 version, and it looks almost the same, just running at 30 frames instead of 60 frames. If that's all we're getting as the difference is, mainly besides lowered settings for some graphical effects and some textures, that's a great result, I would say. I don't think anyone's going to be upset with that. Thanks, Brando. If you have any real questions, not just fake ones, let me know. Darth OP, how many units do you think Switch 2 will have sold by the end of its whole life cycle? I said before, there's a potential for Switch 2 to be the biggest selling console of all time. It could potentially even reach 200 million consoles. I know it sounds insane. Switch 1 got to 150, but like with the increased performance and like a lot of these, it's just not a compromised system as much as Switch 1 was. And with the amount of support Nintendo's going to pour onto this thing, and the amount of support third parties going to pour onto this thing, the amount of consoles they need to like ship, they're going to be pumping out so many consoles. We talked about earlier in the stream that they have the opportunity to have the biggest launch in history, much bigger than Switch 1, much bigger than PS4, PS5. They could be having sold already in the first week when Switch 2 launches over 6 million Switch 2 consoles, which would be the biggest launch in the history of gaming. So if they ship, it just depends on the first couple of years of the Switch 2's lifespan. If they ship 25, 30 million per year, they'll sell them all. You see? So you could easily have by year 7 a Switch 2, something that's way over 150 million, approaching 200 million. We have to wait and see, though. But definitely, sales are not that big of a deal for me. I don't cover sales on my channel. I will be impressed by something that outsells the Switch 1. If they do that, they have a huge opportunity to do that because of the type of console it is and how much improved it is, how much longevity it has, it's going to have. Lots of new features it has. Cutting edge, bleeding edge, best in class DLSS I've ever seen, hands down. This console has. It's better than PC that I've seen. I'm extremely impressed. It's going to give it a long life. Is it confirmed that Metroid, the Fern 5000, is it confirmed Metroid won't have dynamic lighting for gun on Switch 2? I understand limitations of the OG Switch, but removing it. Yeah, they would have to go in and actually add it into this game. It looks like they didn't do that much, but if you notice in the footage, they do have some lighting effects on the missiles and lighting effects coming out of the morph ball. But like for the gun, actual regular beam stuff, doesn't look like there's any lighting effects on that. But for like missile shots and like charge shots, it looks like there is some lighting that takes place on the level, but otherwise not much in that sense. But they do have a lot of atmospheric lighting and a lot of ambient lighting they have going on that looks really good. Do you think there will be mini games priced at $80? Carlos Lopez says, or will it be just Mario Kart World? People complain a lot, but they don't seem to mind anymore based on pre-orders. I would say $80 games are going to be very, very few and far between. They may try to charge $80 for the next mainline big gigantic Zelda game, maybe. Otherwise, I just don't think I don't think it's going to be the norm. Like they're not going to charge $80 for Metroid Prime 4, for example. That'd be a death sentence to that game. They charge $80 for Mario Kart World because they know people will buy it. It's their Grand Theft Auto 6 game, but also they also know that people are going to want to buy Mario Kart World on launch day with the Switch 2 because it's a launch day game. Why would you not want that game? If you're a Mario Kart fan, you're going to want to buy that game with Switch 2. So guess what? They're offering Mario Kart World for $50 because it's included in the Switch 2 bundle, which is what I got. And about 70% of the consoles they're shipping is the Mario Kart 8 or Mario Kart World bundle. So is it really? They're charging $80 for 30% of the consoles shipped versus $50 for 70% of the consoles shipped for Mario Kart World. So does the price even out? Maybe. It's not even half and half. More, 70% of the games being shipped are for $50 in comparison. They're charging $80 for the physical version for 30% of basically 30% of the consoles that will not ship with Mario Kart 8, or I keep saying 8 World. So $80 versus $50. They're giving people that buy the bundle a big discount there, or they're giving them a $10 discount off of the normal price of a regular Switch 1 game, which would be $60. So is it greedy? Yes, that they're charging $80 for their individual game. Of course it is, guys. Yes, it is. Don't buy it for that. Buy the Mario Kart World bundle if you can. They're going to continue to make that bundle too. So, and that's the only game that costs $80, but you're not actually spending $80 if you buy the bundle. So I don't know, man. There's so many ways you can get that game without spending $80 on it. Like people complaining about Mario Kart World being $80. Why are you complaining about it? If you want to buy the game, buy the Mario Kart World bundle then. I'm complaining for other people. Oh, so you're saying you're just using this to make videos about why the game's $80 so you can make money off of your content for rage bait. Gotcha. Okay. You're not actually interested in buying the game, because if you were, you'd just buy the Mario Kart World bundle and get it for $50. Okay, gotcha. Those who don't want to play Mario Kart on launch day are probably not interested in Mario Kart, and they're not going to want to spend $80 anyway, and they're not going to buy it. If you don't want to spend $80 on Mario Kart World, then don't buy the game. And if you want to buy Mario Kart World, then buy the Mario Kart World Switch 2 bundle. Seems kind of logical to me. Don't reward Nintendo though. Don't give them $80 for Mario Kart World separately. Don't do that. If you want to, go ahead. Who am I to tell you what to spend your money on, right? I just showed you an RTX 5090. But if you don't want to give Nintendo $80, you're so, hell bent on that, then don't do it. Simple as that. Tag me with Supermail Dave 64. SMD 64 is not tagging me. You got to add the 64 at the end, too. Crest of Honor 23, since we know that the Pokemon Switch tiles are getting updates for Switch 2, what kind of improvements do you hope and expect to see with them? I see in your avatar, buddy. I'm sorry to tell you that. I don't know much about Pokemon. I don't follow Pokemon. I don't cover Pokemon. I'm not interested in Pokemon. I'm not going to buy Pokemon, and I don't care about Pokemon. Sorry. Forgive me. So, Keith, do you think Samus would make use of the grapple beam like Metroid Prime 3 to pull objects off enemies and the environment, or would her psychic abilities replace it? I'm messing with you, Crest. It's okay. But yeah, I'm the wrong guy to ask about Pokemon. But there are people that are far older than me that are huge Pokemon fans. Age has nothing to do with it. I'm just not interested in the series. All right. Do you think Samus would make use of the grapple beam like Metroid Prime 3 to pull objects off enemies and the environment, or would her psychic abilities replace it? That's a good question. I hope both. I hope they would upgrade her grapple beam to do that, and maybe in conjunction you could use her psychic abilities to do other things with that as well. You gotta remember, this game is being developed by people who made Call of Duty Black Ops, Crisis, Halo. They made Titan. There's people who are on Titanfall 2. These are games. Those are first-person shooter games who that have a lot of different types of abilities and different movements. You could jump off. You can wall jump, run on the walls, teleport, slide, grapple, shoot across levels. You can do all those things in those shooters I just mentioned. That are these developers that Retro Studios hired to make Metroid Prime 4. So I do think that's a really good question and maybe expectation. I hope they give you the ability to do the speed booster, sliding, grappling, the psychic abilities to pull things towards you, to move barriers, to move rocks and everything, and maybe even have you interact with them in a way where you're moving really fast and sliding through like certain doorways, using those abilities like simultaneously. I think that'd be really cool, and they could do it in a way that's not too confusing as well, right? As long as it's organically done within the design of the game, which gives them a lot of leeway to develop Metroid Prime 4 in a very like stacking like kind of way, where you're exploring the world slowly. If you got to think of an example, I think of like Doom Eternal is a good example of how they start you in that game very basically. You don't have much other abilities other than your gun, And then they add all these different movement abilities as you progress through the campaign of Doom Eternal. And all of a sudden, by the end of the game, you're dashing and darting and going crazy all over the place and jumping off walls and, like doing like air diving into glory kills, sliding, slowing down time and, like bullet time, and just doing all kinds of double jumps. You weren't doing any of that stuff in the beginning of the game in Doom Eternal. It was all stacking. So just like with that type of mindset, of course, in a more condensed kind of way, I do think Metroid Prime 4 can take a lot of those types of abilities and kind of stack them. So where at the end of the game, you're doing all this crazy cool stuff and they're like, wow, look at how far we've come. And then like similar to like Metroid Prime 2, like when you have the light suit at the very end of the game, everything opens up. You're all of a sudden like you're invincible to all the dark matter of the dark world. It doesn't hurt you anymore. You can run through it no problem. You have the ability to run through the water no problem. You have the screw attack. You can spin across the levels with no problem in the air. All those abilities are so enhanced, and that was Metroid Prime 2 over 21 years ago, almost 21 years ago now. So Metroid Prime 4, I do think, since this is the opening area of the game here, it's been confirmed. They even said this is pretty much the opening area of the game before you get transported to the new planet. It's gonna start you off with the same type of abilities, of course, as you would expect from Metroid Prime 3, pretty much. So yeah, you have the basic shooting, jumping, and lock on, and morph ball. But it does look like they added little things. They're not so little, but things like when you lock on, you can dash backwards, dash forwards. They did add that. It looks like you don't see it much in the Treehouse demo, but they did have it in the trailer, the updated trailer they had for the Switch 1 Direct. So yeah, and then the mouse capabilities too are going to be you're going to have pinpoint accuracy, great control over your shot. I'm really interested to try that. People at the events who tried the mouse abilities said it worked really well, but I think a lot of them had a little bit of difficulty because they were not sitting down at a desk. They were standing up, having to do it, like over a table. So I think comfort, as long as you're comfortable sitting in front of your desk and doing like mouse and keyboard, I think that'll be the best way to play it. They said you could try to do it on your leg, but some people said it just didn't feel as well. You didn't get as much accuracy, which makes sense. I don't know why you would try to do it on your leg besides just trying to be comfortable on your couch. I think the best way is going to be using a mouse pad on a desk, to be honest with you. But I am, as you know, I am over the moon excited for this game. Most anticipated game of all time for me. Alma, what are your thoughts on a third-person Metroid game, other M not included? I would love it. I would love a third-person Metroid game that is not other M. Give me full control over the character. A lot of things in Metroid Prime are based on your perspective, so you can only do so much with your perspective. And like I said, though, they can greatly enhance that in Metroid Prime 4 with some of these AAA, quadruple A developers they hired from Titanfall 2, Call of Duty, Crysis, and Halo. These developers they hired can give Samus a lot better movement, which it already looks like they're doing. But a third-person Metroid Prime game or a third-person Metroid game would give you even more movement because you see your character jumping and spinning, and you can control it directly. So, have you guys ever played the game called Returnal? I think something like that is very much Metroid inspired. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want Nintendo to make something that plays like Returnal. No, but like how the perspective works and how like some of the shooting works, some of the jump and dashing works, definitely is Metroid-esque. I would love them to do it something like that, but make it 100% Metroid and don't make it like a dash, dodge dash shooter type of game. No. do it. You could do it like that, but make it totally Metroid. I think they could do a fantastic job with that. Returnal gave me hope that a 3D Metroid in third person could be done really well as long as they design it well. Yeah, I've tried some Borderlands. I was never really a super big fan of the art design in that game, and it looks very not pastel. It looks very. It has the wrong kind of cell shading style. I'm not really a fan of that, like the dark line crayon style. I'm not really a big fan of that art style. And yes, obviously I just bought an RTX 5090. Graphics and art design are important to me. So if I don't like the art design, I'm not a big fan of it, I'm just not going to play the game. That might be why I'm not really interested in Pokemon. Art design just doesn't appeal to me. Never has. Dartho P. I think that PlayStation, and Xbox will become subsidies of PC, leave Nintendo as the only independent non-PC studio. So when Switch 3 comes, it will be PC versus Switch 3. What do you think? I already said that I think Switch 2 and PC right now are the best combo. I don't think it's not going to be versus anybody. It's just going to be your choices to where you want to play your game at. That's what I'm advocating for with Switch 2. It's going to give you options. It's going to give so many people more options to play so many more games that they may not have the option to if they're limited to PCs getting certain games or limited to just PlayStation. You got a whole audience of Nintendo console buyers who literally only had a chance to purchase a Switch because of financial reasons or because that's what their parents decided that they're going to have the family play, or that they only had a choice of one console to put their money into. A lot of people can't buy all the consoles. So the Switch 2 allows you to actually have all the games instead of just having just certain games and then they're missing out on certain games because the console just doesn't get them. The Switch 2 should be getting almost all the games ported to it, and it's going to be a really good thing for gaming as a whole. PC is always going to be the best way to play for graphics and performance if you have the money and hardware for the hardware to buy it. So, and all the mods you can do on PC, there's so many cool things on PC that you just can't do on a console. PC it's always going to have its market, and it's growing really big. I think that Monster Hunter Wilds, I think, sold the best on PC, I believe, on Steam. That's saying a lot. That because the PC market is really starting to come into its own, which makes the Switch 2 even more valuable. And why is that? It's because Nintendo has 100% exclusive games on the Switch 2 that you cannot play on PC. And looks like I gotta buy a Switch 2. I can't play Metroid Prime 4 on PC. I can't play the next Mario or Zelda. Can't play F-Zero, Star Fox, Punch-Out, all these franchises that we love, Donkey Kong. Can't play his games on PC. Legally, at least. You can't emulate Switch 2 anyway right now. You won't be able to for quite a long time. This is a custom chip, so it's not like Tegra X1 with Switch 1 where you could just emulate the game in the first year, because everyone knew what that chip could do before the Switch 1 was even released. It was already hacked. So yeah, the Switch 2 is a must-own even for PC gamers, dare I say. There's going to be certain games on Switch 2 that are exclusive to Switch 2 that are going to look really appealing to someone who likes to play PC games, and they're going to be like, oh, looks like I got to buy a Switch 2. Darn it. This is not coming to PC. I got to buy a Switch 2 now. Shoot. They're going to be... But for a PC gamer who spends thousands and thousands of dollars on games and hardware, buying a Switch 2 is a no-brainer. But for a PC gamer who's not really a fan or has no fan loyalty or ties to Xbox 360's back catalog or Xbox original from 2001 backwards compatibility, since you can only do that on Xbox Series S and X, play backwards compatibility, which is a huge benefit of having an Xbox Series X console, playing those Xbox 360 games and Xbox original games in backwards compatibility. Don't get me wrong, that's a great thing. If you have loyalty or if you have nostalgia for those games, that's a great system to have for backwards compat games. But if you have a PC, and you don't care about those games, really, those old games from the 360 era, and they're not already on Steam, there's no reason to buy an Xbox at this point, because all those first-party games are going to PC. And there's getting to be less and less reason to purchase a PlayStation, because the PlayStation first-party games are also going to PC, and they're going quicker than ever before. Used to have to wait like 3 or 4 years to get a PC port on from PlayStation, like God of War 2018. It took like 4 years. Then Horizon Zero Dawn took like 4 years. Now you're getting them within a year. So for a PC gamer, there's no reason to buy a PlayStation 5 even, unless you're dying to have the game on day one. I already have a PS5 because PlayStation wasn't really clear on their PC initiative when they released PS5 in 2020. It was more so you're going to get the games on PlayStation 5 and that's it. And, we'll talk about PC some other day. But now it's like, okay, Spider-Man 2 comes out. We're not going to talk about the PC port, but it's coming, of course. And then, of course, a year later, oh, here it is. Boom, it's coming out in 2 months. Oh. So, if you really want to have the best versions of PlayStation games, you may as well just wait for the PC port to come out, as long as you're okay with waiting a year to play them at 4K 60 instead of, 1080p, 1440p, 30 frames, 60 frames sometimes on PS5 if you don't have a PS5 Pro. It's very convoluted, right? And it doesn't send a very clear message. Yes, PS5 is still selling really, really well, and it's still on a little bit lower the pace of PS4, but there's definitely some signs there of weakness, and the games are not really coming, and everything is just being ported to PC. So yeah, I'm not throwing any shade on PlayStation fans or Xbox fans. You go ahead and buy whatever you want, enjoy those consoles. But if you have an option, for me personally, the only option right now is just PC and Switch 2. I do own a PS5, but I haven't booted it up since April of 2024 or so. I think with Stellar Blade. That was a year ago. Last game I played on PS5 was Stellar Blade. And it was a great game. But PC version of that's coming out, I think, next month or something? Just a year. So. And I think that Switch 2 exclusive, what was that, Bloodborne game? What's it called? I forgot the name of that game. The Bloodborne spin-off game, the multiplayer thing. I think that's probably going to be ported to PC as well after a year or so. Dust Bloods. There was some information about that, like something about them being like non-committal or something like that about a PC port or something like that. But it doesn't really matter though. Like for third-party exclusives on Switch 2, that's just going to be an added benefit, bonus. People are really there for the first-party exclusives. Obviously, that's why you buy a Nintendo console, for first-party exclusives. The third-party games, if there's any third-party exclusives, wow, that's like crazy. That's an added bonus to buy a Switch 2. You remember the Wii? The Wii had third-party exclusives, and the Wii U had third-party exclusives too for a while, until they were ported to eventually to PC. Zombie U was ported to PC. before they ported it to PlayStation, and then the Wonderful 101 was exclusive to Wii U. They ported that later on after their deal right now. It was like five or 6 years later or something like that. So, but yeah, it's all great stuff. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this Metroid Prime 4 footage. But yeah, I think we'll wrap it up here, guys. You have any more questions? The Fern 5000, do you know if Metroid will have pointer controls like Prime Remastered? I think so. Didn't they say it will? I mean, it has mouse controls. I'm assuming they'll have something similar to what they did with Metroid Prime Remastered. Probably gyro pointer controls, which is not really true pointer controls. Or they may just not have that and just tell you to use mouse controls. But I think pointer controls are something they need to do. Pointer controls was confirmed during Treehouse when they showed Metroid Prime. Oh, okay, good. I think they need to do that as an option because not everyone can play on their sofa. Trying to do mouse controls on their leg, it's not going to feel good. So pointer controls with gyro, I think, is a must for Metroid Prime 4. So yeah. What monitor am I rocking? Yeah, I talked about this earlier. Noshi, I have an LG 144 hertz 4K monitor. Let me see. Can I get an idea? What's it called? The brand? Settings. Let me see. Let me see if it'll tell me what kind of monitor this is from the settings. Oh, no. It's here. But yeah, it's a fantastic monitor. I may upgrade to a 240 hertz monitor now that I have the RTX 5090. But like I said earlier, I never even expected to get an RTX 5090 so quickly. NVIDIA emailed me and asked me if I wanted to buy a brand new Founders Edition, and I was like, heck yeah, give it to me. Give it to me. Here it is. RTX 5090 on all its glory, sparkly glory. RTX 5090, good stuff. Two slot card, man. Can you believe this? The world's most powerful GPU, and it fits on a 2-slot card. 2 slots. It's all this is. That is an amazing manufacturing thing there that they did. Amazing. Yeah. GX 5090. It's kind of hard to hold it up here. It is dense. It's very heavy. For that size, it's a lot heavier than I expected. It's over 6 pounds. Feels heavy when you're trying to hold it with your palm like this, like 2 fingers, trying to hold it up. You gotta kind of just, you don't want to drop it. That's GPU, all right. Yeah, Alma, I think it's an Ultra Gear. I think that's the one I have. Now you got me too curious. Hold on, let me see. Let me take a look really quick. Let me look on the back. Yeah. It's an Ultra Gear. I had to look at the back just to be sure. All right. I think this monitor, by the way, this monitor I got on a deal. I think it was about $500. This monitor, late last year. Ever check out NVIDIA's Pocket AI that uses Ampere? Seen any application in terms of ecosystem? No, I haven't seen that. You missed the GPU reveal? Do you want to see it? Here it is, buddy. I have it right here. RTX 5090. So big you gotta hold it with two hands. Gosh. It's not a joke, by the way. It's real. Yeah, it's a big boy. It's a big boy, but it's also smaller than expected because it's a 2-slot card, right? And I really love the this part right here, the connector. So you put your connector in, you plug it in there, and it goes like parallel with the graphics card or on the side, so it doesn't actually interfere with your case. Because that was a big problem with the RTX 4090 and its power adapter, is that it was actually sticking straight out of the socket and hitting people's cases and bending, causing them to disconnect and causing shorts in the lines. So they fixed that. Yes, there's problems. I've reported problems with the RTX 5090, but it's more so if you're using a third-party card with a different power adapter. A lot of people made the mistake of, not the mistake, but a lot of people bought third-party power adapters that were not actually the same ones that were designed to be used with the 5090. They looked the same, but they weren't actually the same, and some of them caught fire. My suggestion always is to use what comes in the box with your devices. If you try to go and buy other things and try to make it work with a expensive device, sometimes you'll have compatibility issues and you could cause serious damage to your product. That was another issue with Switch 1. I think Nate, Nintendo Prime, did a video on that, and myself too, back when Switch 1 came out. People were buying USB charger adapters for Switch 1, and they were using the wrong voltage, and it was causing damage to their consoles, to the Switch 1 because of that. It causing them to brick. You got to have what's the correct rated power adapter for your console, or you can brick your system. Same thing with any device. Just because something says it's compatible or it works with said device, if it's not from the actual manufacturer, it doesn't come in the box, use at your own risk. So I'm definitely using what comes in the box for my RTX 5090. I'm not going to go out and buy a third-party power adapter that I'm not sure is going to work with it, just because it may have some kind of like RGB bling on it or something. I'm gonna use what comes in the box. Nintendo did update the firmware to stop that from happening, but it was a huge problem for the first 6 months. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because they released something where where it wasn't compatible with your normal other accessories. The layman out there is just going to buy what's on Amazon to replace what they got, or to get something that's longer, right? And not realizing it's not the same amps. And there you go. There goes your system. Thanks, Chris. But yeah, it looks like they fixed that problem, if I'm not wrong, with the Switch 2. From all reports, this is a standard type of device that you can plug into that works with any USB-C connection, pretty much, as long as like the latest one. You're not like limited to certain types of power limits. So you can plug it in with any of the latest USB-C adapters and you should be just fine. They thankfully have added that stuff. Use a non-standard USB-C power draw. Battery banks didn't deliver that. They delivered the USB-C standard, which was too much, and fried the switch. Yep. Just use the USB standards this time. Yeah, exactly. Is VRR not possible and docked? Oh yeah. I'm surprised nobody asked that question. Yeah, Nintendo removed the VRR thing from their website for the docked play, but they had it there in the first place when they first announced the console, which means, this is just my guess, not fact, just my opinion. We don't know, but it looks like probably they will just patch it in later in a firmware update, and that feature may not be available at launch. Likely they'll patch it in when it's ready. There might be a software compatibility issue that they have with the firmware OS, and then they will just patch it in later. Otherwise, they factually announced it. They had like even in like text, it supports VRR like in trailers and everything. So like it was all there. Something must have happened in the launch models that the software just wasn't ready to be implemented in their day one OS patch, because that's how these consoles work now. If you remember, dating back to the Wii U, if you bought a Wii U and it wasn't launch day yet, you couldn't actually operate the system because it had to connect to the internet to download its OS so it'll work. That's how they prevented people from showing the console too early when they ship them to retailers. If you take a Switch 2 outside of the truck, if you steal one, you won't get it to work correctly. There's somebody who actually stole a Switch 2. It's been reported. They can't get the console to work. It turns on, but it doesn't really work because it doesn't have the OS really installed on it correctly. So when you buy a new console these days, you have to connect it to the internet. It's going to download its first like firmware. All the updates are going to be there. Download that, it's going to install it. Then it's going to work like the console. It should work. And then so like for Switch 2, they're stockpiling these consoles for so long now. Their firmware probably just isn't quite ready yet to be launched to have all the features on day one. So they had to like cancel that. They said, oh, you know what? VRR may not actually be ready day one now. Sorry, guys. We may have to, take that out of the verbiage, but we'll patch it in later. That's my guess. Yeah, the system can support it in the handheld mode. It's just G-Sync. So yeah, it's mainly technical software issue causing problems with the dock. You have to do that with Switch 2. Requires day one update, microSD Express to function. Exactly. Yeah, so HDMI 2.0 also works with VRR. That's why it's 1080p, 120 frames per second, and 4K 60. HDMI 2.0, if you look it up, it supports those in VRR mode, and I believe it also supports 1440p and 120 frames per second as well. I don't think Nintendo would do many games with 1440p, 120 frames though. To get HDMI 2.0 supports 4K. HDMI 2.1, sorry. HDMI 2.1 supports 4K 120 frames per second. Okay? And I believe... Is it 240 frames too? I think so. But yeah. HDMI 2.0, 4K 60, and 120 frames below that in the resolutions is what it supports. So yes, Switch 2 can support those VRR, which is why they announced it. I don't think the software is ready yet, so they had to remove that from the verbiage. G-Sync in handheld, yes. Yep. Alma, 100%. I was saying earlier, the Switch 2 is not going to be hacked as quickly as Switch 1 because it's a custom NVIDIA chip. It's going to take data miners and hackers probably about a year just to like access the code, to like access kernel memory or something like that, or the kernel software. And then once they access that, it's going to take them another year to even run any software on it. Then they have to like try to finagle that to get a game to work. It's going to take a long time, I think. If they get emulation on Switch 2 in the first year, I'll be blown away. I'll be like, you guys are like insane hackers if you did that. Switch 1, Tegra X1 processor was already hacked before the system even came out because it was hacked for the NVIDIA Shield tablet back in 2015. So Switch 1 had no chance. It was going to be hacked pretty much right away. Yeah, Cyberpunk 2077, there's no word on ray tracing. It's highly unlikely. Anything's possible. It's not going to be, I would say it's 99.9% chance there's no ray tracing in Cyberpunk 2077 on Switch 2, but there's always a chance. Yeah, I don't think they make 2 terabyte SD Express cards yet. I don't even think they make those. The highest I've seen is 1 terabyte from Luxor. And those are almost $200. If you want to get yourself started and just double up your system memory, that's really inexpensive, and have that, I suggest buying the 256 gigabyte Luxor or SanDisk micro SD Express card, and that'll double your system memory on day one, and it's only $59.99 on Amazon for those. It'll save you some cash and buy you some time, but if you have the money, go ahead and buy the 1 terabyte one if you can find it in stock. It's selling out at a rapid rate because guess what? Surprise, surprise, Switch 2 is extremely popular. Oh my gosh, who would have thought? Yep, Dumb and Dumber reference. Very, very, very famous. Yeah, 3 times the price of number ones. Yeah, but the 256 gigabyte micro SD Express from SanDisk, and I believe Luxor as well, those are both $60. So if you just want to double up your system memory on day one, go with that one, and it will save you some money. Or buy the $100 512 gigabyte version, and it's still better than spending $200 for 1 terabyte. That's a lot of money to spend on storage. They did have a slight deal. We can get like $10 off for like $189.99 for the 1 terabyte version. But man, that's a lot of money. Just saying. If you're going for here's my suggestion, okay? If you're going for Cyberpunk 2077, buy the cartridge version. That way, you don't have to worry about having to download anything for the internal storage, because the entire game is on the 64 gigabyte cartridge. Buy the physical version of Cyberpunk 2077. Obviously, if you're getting Mario Kart World, the bundle, that'll be downloaded directly to your console. It's probably like 20 gigabytes is my guess, maybe 30 at the most. Mario Kart games usually are not that big, for their storage space. Well, let's just say it's 35 gigs. It's still not that bad. And if you're buying Street Fighter 6, they said that game already it's already confirmed. I believe that game has like a 48 gigabytes, I think, storage size for Switch 2. Let me look it up. Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter 6 Switch 2 file size. Oh, it's 23 gigs. Okay. Well, good. That's even better. Yeah, I was right. Street Fighter 6 is 48.8 gigabytes. So yeah, if you're going for Cyberpunk 2077, buy the cartridge if you can. Yeah, there's no storage you have to worry about there. You get it all in the cartridge. No having to download anything else at all. And if you're going for Street Fighter 6, that's 48 gigabytes. What else is there on launch day? Yakuza 0 is over 50 gigabytes. That's getting a bit bigger. I know that. Elden Ring, I don't know what Elden Ring is. Switch to file size. Doesn't say. Yeah, Bravely Default is probably not going to be that big of a file size. It's a remastered, so yeah, you should be okay, guys. Honestly. Yeah. You should be okay for your file sizes for the launch of Switch 2, as long as you buy Cyberpunk 2077 if you're getting that game on cartridge, okay? Anyways, I really got to get going, so I really want to thank you guys for coming out. Appreciate all your support on all the videos. I will be putting timestamps into the description when we're done. So yeah, thank you all so much for your support. Do me a huge favor and hit the like button for me if you haven't already. And we will be taking off here, and we'll see you soon on the next video. Take care.